Hello, what have we here?
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another day on 30 NSG. I'm your host, 30 and Still Gaming, and on today's episode, we're going to be talking about Dustin Legary. If you guys don't know who Dustin is, it's Destin. Sorry, Destin Legary. He's an entertainment journalist. He works for IGN. He has a YouTube channel. I've met him a couple of times at cons and stuff, and we've had good conversations and whatnot. He interviewed Michael Pachter, okay, or Pachter is how you pronounce it. And those of you that don't know who Michael Pachter is, he's a managing director at Wedbush Securities, providing coverage of the entertainment software, entertainment retail, social internet, e-commerce, movies, entertainment sectors for the last 20 years. Now, he talks and he has a lot of knowledge. So what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be going over the interview, Dustin's interview. So I have a link of Dustin inside my description down below as well. So if you guys like that, please go over to watch the full video. We're going to watch it here, but go over there, give a like, give a comment, watch it, because he is the originator of this actual content that we're actually going to be talking about. So I'm going to play the interview. I'm going to let them talk, and then I'm going to give you my input as well. So that's what we're doing this morning. If you like this type of stuff, please make sure you share, like, subscribe. It helps the channel out, helps us grow. And if you like other stuff like this, like I said, it helps us grow. Give me 1 second. Sorry. All right. Good morning. Good morning, Travis. Good morning, boss. What's going on, Jesse? Nostalgic Travis first. Let's see here. All right. So let's bring this up, and we'll get the interview started here.
Top earnings estimator year after year and best on the street by the Wall Street Journal. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm actually I'm okay in my day job. So notwithstanding the hate that I get from online financial industry trolls, I'm actually I remain employed after over 20 years, so I must be doing something right.
Yeah, you seem like you're doing okay. And just for full disclosure, you don't own stock or anything in any of the companies you analyze. Is that correct?
Yeah, not permitted to.
Yeah.
I owned stock in one company that one of my colleagues covered once, and it was about.
And what he's saying here is to give him credibility of I have no invested interest in any of these companies. This is his thoughts, his opinions, just like myself. This is my opinions and stuff based on. Now, he brings up a lot of stuff in this interview that I've been saying for well over a year about Game Pass, about Microsoft, about what they're doing, about the industry, where Sony was actually, what could happen to Sony if they don't change their ways, which they have. So the interview is actually really good.
The worst experience ever, because he didn't even work for us when I bought it. And then he came to the firm and he initiated coverage on it. And I was instructed by our compliance department that I had to sell it, but that I had to time the sale, so I had no control, which meant I use options. Long story. But anyway, the stock was Zscaler.
Oh, give me 1 second. I have to switch back to this for a second.
10,000 shares, and I paid about 25 for it. So I literally had 250,000 in it. Mm-hmm. I orderly sold it all between 50 and 60. So I made a couple $100,000. It went to 300. I know, and if the guy hadn't come to work for us, I would have not sold it.
All right, let's go to
the roadblock of the CMA. You seem very confident. Do you want to elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, the CMA is they have jurisdiction over the UK only, and just to define the UK, there's an island called Great Britain that consists of England, Wales, and Scotland. They're all part of the United Kingdom, and then the northern tip of the island of Ireland is called Northern Ireland. That's also part of the UK. So just the island of Great Britain and the northern part of Ireland is under the CMA's jurisdiction. So if the CMA says the deal can't go through because we're concerned that Microsoft will put Call of Duty on Game Pass, then Microsoft will say, fine, we'll form an independent entity and we'll name it Activision Blizzard UK PLC. PLC is their way of saying incorporated. Mm-hmm. And I think it's publicly listed corporation. And Activision Blizzard UK PLC will run the business under the status quo.
So you see what he's saying there. So he's saying no matter what happens, The deal's going to go through, and if they say, well, that's fine, you're going to take Call of Duty away, they're like, okay, we'll play ball over in your region. So they'll make up a company, and then just Call of Duty in that region will be underneath that rule, but everywhere else it will change, right? And that's how simple it is for big corporations to play ball, right? I mean, we've seen this before with Activision, and we've seen this before with EA, how they change rules and regulations based on the loot box scenario and microtransactions. If it doesn't work in one country, they're like, oh, we'll play ball. And they take it and remove it from there, put it underneath a different company, as he just said, a PLC, and then they'll continue working with operations as normal.
Nothing will change while we litigate the CMA's block of the deal. So we're going to close the deal. You guys can just right off if you think you can stop us from closing the deal.
And he's very, very candid, right? And again, these are his opinions. He's an insider, like business industry insider type of. He knows what's going on in the industry, right? And this is exactly how businesses operate, right? Like, sure, you don't want us to do this, you can F off, and we'll continue doing business as usual.
But we're going to respect your law, and we're going to maintain the status quo until we win in court, because we're going to win. And if we don't win, then we will actually divest of Activision Blizzard UK PLC. We'll spin it off to our shareholders and let that thing run as an independent entity, and you can regulate that, and don't worry about it. And, it won't be able to do anything with Call of Duty. So that's the easy solution. The UK is about 20% of Microsoft's total market, Microsoft's total gaming market.
Mm-hmm. That's a pretty big chunk.
So it's meaningful.
Yeah.
But it's not, it's like, saying that you have to do something different in California. And automakers have managed to, honor California's emission standards for the last 50 years. So Microsoft can honor the UK's, opposition to a deal. The fact is that when the CMA understands all this, and Microsoft, as recently as today, updated its...
Which is, I think, 5 days ago when this interview happened. Let me see, when did this interview was on? Yeah, 3 days ago, 4 days ago. So
response to the CMA offering to do exactly. And what I said, Activision Blizzard UK PLC, they didn't offer that. They said, we'll appoint an independent trustee and an independent overseer. So the trustee will make decisions that are in the best interests of the consumer, and the overseer will report to you guys, auditor will report to you guys and make sure that we maintain the status quo. And remember that the CMA had about, 30 or 40 pages of objections. What they boiled down to is...
I didn't see that, Predator. So Predator in chat saying, did you hear that the FTC is asking Congress for money? I think they asked for around 160 million. FTC is not winning against Microsoft. Yeah, look, I know a lot of people, are campaigning, and I have no horse in the race, right? I know a lot of people are against Microsoft buying the corporation, and I know other people are Sony fans and Xbox fans. I'm fans of neither of the companies, right? I'm not a fan of conglomerate companies taking over other companies, but that's the business, right? That's the business of when companies need to survive, they have to eat other companies up. That's just the way it is, okay? And there's other companies that literally they invest in the companies just so they can sell it to one of the conglomerate companies, right? This is a practice that's gone on and on and on. Like if someone sees businesses, they're like, hey, let's make a studio. Let's get the capital of it, make the studio, and then get interest in from one of these companies to see if they pick us up. That's a business. Okay. That's a business all the time. So Microsoft is just doing what they need to do to survive as a conglomerate. This is why I call them Unicron. This is why I call EA Unicron. Like Unicron goes around eating planets up. FTC is not going to stop this deal. This deal is going through. Regardless if you like it or anybody else doesn't like it or not, this deal is going to go through.
If Microsoft were to change the status quo, meaning if Microsoft were to stop supporting PlayStation, that would be bad for consumers. Agreed. 100%. That's right. Microsoft has said since literally the day after they announced the deal, we will continue to support PlayStation. As part of this settlement, they've already offered up a 10-year contract with Sony to continue to support PlayStation, which Sony rejected because Sony
Or Galactus, right?
But the fact is, no one can say you've got to support PlayStation 5 for the next 50 years.
Now, this is a good point that he's making, right? Right? This is a great point he's making. Even if they say, hey, we support, like, look, and again, before I even say my statement, Microsoft as of right now is not taking Call of Duty. And it's not about Call of Duty anymore, but they're not taking Call of Duty away from PlayStation, okay? But what he's about to say about PlayStation, right, they can support PlayStation, but PlayStation's only going to be around for 7 to 11, maybe 12 years total in its lifespan, okay? They don't have to make deals after that. This is why in business contracts and whatnot, Microsoft is doing a 10-year deal. This is why Sony is like, 10 years is not good enough, right? Because let's be honest, even though exponentially business moves and it happens, business, things that happen in business, and I don't want to bring politics into it, but things take a really long time in politics and in businesses to move things along, right? Technology moves super fast, but businesses themselves are like slow turtles and tortoises, okay? When something's implemented, it takes years and years and years to implement the stuff. So right now, Microsoft for the last 5 years has been implementing what they've been doing to get Game Pass and their future of cloud gaming and whatever else to the future. Sony already is out of the gate, and they're slow, okay? They were slow to adapt their games over to PC. They were slow to incorporate to get into the streaming area, okay? And the streaming industry, he brings up later, for video games is 12 years behind the movie industry, okay? So we're talking like 2030, okay? Mid-2030s before everything here that's happening now progresses and gets and gets to the point where all of a sudden Sony might not even be a console anymore, but there might not even be consoles anymore.
I mean, do you still have your PlayStation 2, which came out in 2000? It's 23 years later.
I do.
No, but you can't.
But I'm
there's
a
no
nerd.
game. There's no games for it, right?
Oh, okay, yeah.
So the PlayStation 2 is defunct 23 years after it came out.
Mm-hmm.
The PlayStation 5, it was defunct, 10 years, 12 years after it came out. The PlayStation 5 will be defunct by 2033. So a 10-year contract is fine. It'll take care of the PlayStation 5. Sony has no right to expect that Activision would support the PlayStation 6 because we don't even know what it is. It's entirely possible the PS6 costs $10,000, per unit and requires, processing speed where a game would cost $500 million to make, and no one would ever do it. I don't think Sony's that stupid, but Microsoft can't commit to support something that they don't know what it is. So there's no regulator that says you have to support that because you never know what it's going to be. So bottom line is the status quo is they support the PlayStation 5. Sony made some noise about, but if you put Activision titles on Game Pass, that would hurt PS Now. Wait a minute. Or PS Plus, sorry, they changed it.
Yeah, I appreciate the subscription.
PS Plus doesn't have any new release games and doesn't have anything from Activision. It might have like Crash Bandicoot from 1999, I don't know, or Spyro the Dragon or whatever. I don't think so.
It had Stray. It had Stray day one, and it did really well. And they're like, we don't talk about that.
Yeah. So I don't.
Boss says, you can hope, but I've seen how it ends. You'll be disappointed. In what way, Boss? How am I going to be disappointed? I don't have a horse in the race. I know you're a Sony pony. I know 100% you're a Sony pony. Right? I don't take claim to a console of a plastic box. I play games where I want to play games.
See that argument winning because as it stands right now, and I know Microsoft put something out on Game Pass today, but I didn't see if they updated subscribers. Microsoft was just above 50% of the size of PlayStation Plus. PlayStation Plus had 47 million subscribers, and the last time I saw Microsoft was 25. So Microsoft's smaller than Sony there. Who cares if one game, which represents something like 3% of the industry or whatever, is on their platform? Like, who cares? And as long as it's available on PlayStation, who cares? So the reason that the CMA can't really make this stick is that the CMA didn't block the Amazon acquisition of
what have we
MGM
here?
movies. And they didn't block the Disney acquisition of Fox movies and TV. And they could have, but they didn't say a word. Why did Amazon buy MGM? To put the content on Freevee and on Amazon Prime Video.
All right, well, let me back up here for a second. When he says there, right? They're trying to block Microsoft buying Activision Blizzard, right? But they didn't try so hard to stop Disney from buying Fox, right?
And they could have, but they didn't say a word.
Hold on, let me back up a little bit more.
Really make this stick is that the CMA didn't block the Amazon acquisition of MGM movies. And they didn't block the Disney acquisition of Fox movies and TV. And they could have, but they didn't say a word. Why did Amazon buy MGM? To put the content on Freevee and on Amazon Prime Video.
Right, and here's a point that a lot of people don't take claim for or don't take stakes for, right? Amazon just bought MGM, right? And I've said this in the past about if Activision Blizzard doesn't go to Microsoft, Activision Blizzard King goes to somebody else. Tencent, Amazon, Google, independent Saudi Arabian guy, right? It doesn't matter. It's going somewhere. Okay. So now as a business, you're like, well, who's going to get it? Because all they have to do, right? A company, all they have to do is go, like, if Xbox wanted to sell their division off, or if Sony wanted to sell their division off, whoever buys that, Apple, Amazon, Google, okay, all of a sudden they buy Sony or they buy Xbox part. Boom. A company that was here one day, gone the next, and now another company has their brand, and then they can take that and go, right? Like Apple could, let's say, pick up Xbox if they wanted to and be like, okay, now we have the Apple box. Or they pick up the PlayStation, and now it's the Apple Station, okay? And PlayStation no longer exists. Xbox no longer exists because these big conglomerate companies can just buy the other bigger corporations, right? It's interesting watching two companies fight, but it's kind of educational for me, at least. Yeah, and that's what I like about all of this stuff, right? I love listening to like these insiders, and I love reading articles and reading between the lines of what businesses do.
Why did Disney buy Fox? To put the content on Disney Plus.
Right, yeah, and nobody has problems when everyone has a problem with Microsoft buying companies up. They're like, well, they didn't make this company, and they're just buying stuff and making it exclusive. Meanwhile, Disney takes all of Fox, Amazon takes all of MGM and just puts it on their content. They're like, yeah, we own it now. That's what it is. They weren't a part of the industry, and now they are. Right? Imagine that. Imagine that.
Like The Simpsons and Family Guy are on there right now, and the CMA said nothing about that. Is that unfair to Netflix? Absolutely, it's unfair to Netflix. Did Netflix complain? No, because they're not a bunch of big babies.
I say,
so the CMA,
because business is business.
CMA can try to litigate, and when Microsoft goes to court and says, "Wait a minute, you guys didn't object to Amazon and MGM," and oh, by the way, Amazon MGM is really analogous to Activision Microsoft. MGM is literally about 3 or 4% of the movie market. Disney Fox is like 20%.
Yeah.
It's a giant acquisition. And you said,
and I know last night Krebsy brought up why, that Fox is not as big as the Activision, and that is 100% false. Like 20% of the movie industry is huge. Okay. A percent, if there's 5 companies and they each have 20%, you know what I mean? And they all of a sudden they buy one of those percents up. There was 6 major studios. Now there's 4, right? Now there's 4. And one of them got picked up by the other company. One of the other 5.
nothing in either case, but you're going to single us out because Sony's whining? No, sorry. So, no, honestly, they're going to win in court, but...
The dude who looks like a giant baby calling someone a baby, I love it. He looks like a giant baby?
The solution that they propose, which is the independent trustee and the auditor, that'll be enough. The other thing that's fascinating here is that none of these agencies actually exist in a vacuum. So there's 3 big agencies that are looking at the deal. The EU, so European Union, the US Federal Trade Commission, and then the UK CMA. The EU did something very clever. They moved their decision date to 1 day before the CMA's decision date.
Yeah.
And so April 25th.
Exactly,
and then
Travis.
They leaked out that we're leaning toward approving the deal. And they leaked out, they are Microsoft, that Microsoft is accommodating all of our requests. So how is it that the EU says on April 25th?
Listen to what he's saying. They leaked out information. Okay, they leaked out information. Trust me, there's no such thing as leaks. Everything is strategically put out there, especially with social media nowadays.
There's no competitive issues whatsoever. We're happy with the deal. Microsoft has caved to all of our requests, and we approve the deal. And then the next day, the CMA says, well, under those same facts and our law is the same, we block the deal. No court is ever going to uphold that, and the CMA knows that. So what I actually expect to happen is the CMA pushes their date forward and tries to beat the EU to the punch, and they want to approve it first so they can be the guys who got the concessions from
Now, see, there's the big thing, right? CMA knows that they're going to lose, right? So they might move up their date, right? And again, this is his opinion, right? They might move up the date and say, no, we're okaying it before you, EU, so they get the credit, right? That's the real business here, okay? It's not about trying to block anything. It's literally about saving face and looking like, oh, no, we're okay. We were just asking the questions, and we're okay with it, so we're going to let it go through. We're the first ones to let it go through.
Microsoft. Everybody ignores the fact that the U.S. FTC is by far the most politically motivated of the three, and the commissioners there are all aspiring to higher office. So all those people are going to jump and trip over themselves to try to get in front of the EU and CMA and approve the deal. So I would say the month of April is going to be exciting because you're going to get announcement after announcement after announcement. This deal is happening. It's closing. How is that?
Yeah, it is closing. It is going to close. Both companies are bad guys in their way of doing business. Yeah. And this is, I have no problem with what Microsoft is doing, and I have no problem with Sony's doing, right? Like Sony is doing what they think. They have a what is the fiduciary credence to their investors to stop this transaction from going through. Well, same thing on the other side, right? They have investors, and they have the same exact right to try to make this deal go through, right? So one company is trying to block it and doing what they can to block it or get things that are better for them before the deal gets through, because if the deal just goes through and they can't protect certain things, then they're screwed. So Sony's trying to protect as much as possible before the deal goes through, because Sony knows the deal's going through. Right now, behind the scenes, like there's that picture, with Liam Neeson. No, is it not Liam Neeson? Liam Neeson's fucking Qui-Gon. Naked Gun guy. What, isn't that? Oh my God, my brain's hurting. Anyway, where he's like, there's nothing to see here. Everything's fine. Okay. Well, behind the scenes, Sony right now is trying to put things in place. They're like, we need to get our shit together. Okay. It's like it's like a duck. The duck up above, it looks great, but the feet are struggling underneath the water, right? It looks very, very nice. Leslie Nielsen, thank you very much, Travis. Right, and the duck looks nice and tight on the top of the water, and the feet are just scrambling. Right now, that's what Sony is doing behind the scenes. On the surface, they're fine, but they're trying to negate things right now so they don't become the dodo. Okay. And I know a lot of you Sony fans right now are going, oh, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Sony almost went under in 2014. They were going bankrupt, and they turned it around by 2016. They were up in the air and being almost bought out. This happens a lot to a lot of different businesses, and I'm not taking a side here, but what I'm saying is Sony needed to, and I said this, and a lot of you guys are new in my channel, I talked about this for years on our other podcast, all right? I said Sony has to change the ways they're doing business right now. They have to take their games, move them off the platform, and move them to the PC to make more sales, because they only have a certain amount. Their cap is what the cap is. If they sold 100 million units of PlayStation and God of War is the first-party title, and that's where they make the most money on, they only can hit a certain percent. And if they're only selling 20 million copies and their peak is 100 million, they need to get their sales out to other people. And this is why they've done what they've done. They've adapted and they've changed to get their games on PC. They've adapted and changed, and now they're going towards the streaming service. They don't like to do the streaming service. He'll go on later in the interview talking about if Microsoft does something where they put Call of Duty on the thing, they're going to force Sony's hand to put it on. They don't want it. Sony doesn't want Call of Duty on their PlayStation Plus, right? They don't want it because it diminishes what they're trying to do as a business. But if the industry, right? Because the people tell you what you want. Okay, and if the people are taking games that are free to play and they're playing Call of Duty on the competitor's box because it's on Game Pass down the road, okay, then Sony has to put it on their console as well, which then breaks through like the Trojan horse. Because then if that game goes through, then the consumer base of PlayStation will be like, well, you put Call of Duty, can you put another game on there that we want early? You know what I mean? Day and date. And Sony doesn't want to do that. And I agree with Sony because I agree that. Take the game that's brand new, put it out there, let it run its course, make the money it can, and then once it topples out, you know, if 80% of the market already has the game, then you put it out there for the rest of the people on a service like a Game Pass or a PlayStation Plus, right? The whole bias of what this country is based on is now looked down upon. Acquire more and earn more, not sit around and have your incentives and let your opponents succeed actively take you down. Right. Sean Fox says, it doesn't matter to me. I have a PlayStation 5 and an Xbox. I play games because I like to play video games. It's like a playground. He said, she said, crap. Exactly, Sean. I don't care. I don't take a side. If someone wants to come in because I play on Xbox and they're like, well, you're an Xbox fanboy. You have no idea what you're talking about because ever since I was a kid, I've owned an Atari and a Nintendo and an Apple IIc and a Windows machine. And like, I've had every single console minus the Jaguar and, what else? Sega Saturn. I didn't have that. I didn't have the Jaguar. I didn't have the Sega Saturn because I didn't want shit products. But they're out there, right? I've had every single console. I don't care what console is. I just want to play games where I want to play them. So I don't have a varsity jacket of the team I'm picking here.
That's great. There's so much to dive into there. Real quick, what does the legal process look like? Like the CMA blocks it. There's actually legal recourse from Microsoft to chase if that were to happen, and it's a long process from what I understand.
In the U.S. and the EU, the process is super fast. So like when the UK,
but I'm not a fanboy, Travis. I don't have a console of choice, right? I play the Xbox one because my friends bought an Xbox, and to play with my friends, I had to buy an Xbox, right? I have a PlayStation. You can't see it. I don't know if you can see it. I have a PlayStation back there. I have an Xbox One over here. I have an Xbox. I have a Switch. I have all my other systems right there, right? There's all the old systems right there. Okay? There's a PlayStation, an Xbox 360, okay? PlayStation 2, right? I have all the systems. I have no loyalty to anybody. Because you watch me play video games on the Xbox doesn't mean I'm an Xbox fanboy. Why go out and buy a $500 system when I can play the exact same game on the system I already have? Where's the PlayStation 5? Well, smartass, PlayStation 5s, and you already know this answer, wasn't in abundance when I was buying a machine. And instead of buying a PlayStation 5, I invested my money into an actual graphics card in my PC. Now that there's PlayStation 5s in abundance, I don't have the actual cash flow to buy another system. So I'm waiting until I have money, like a responsible adult, before I buy another system that I don't need right now.
UK blocked, they sued. The UK sued back, I'm sorry, the FTC sued back in December. The case has been docketed for August, which is pretty fast. Mm-hmm. So, and Microsoft can move that forward. Both parties can move.
And just like Boss, and I know you're in my stream all the time, so you can take it. And just like a Sony fanboy, you're an absolute dickhead. Just typical like a Sony fanboy.
But the judge set August. That means that if nobody blinks and nobody does anything, it gets litigated in August and decided in September, and it's over. And Microsoft's going to win. The EU's similar. A few months. And again, the courts are all going to kind of align. The CMA process is more like 3 years. It's just slow. Mm-hmm. And so that's why the solution, when I call it Activision Blizzard UK PLC, but the trustee and the auditor solution, segregate the operations.
Travis, don't throw your hat in the ring. I wasn't talking to you. If you want me to call you a dickhead, you're a dickhead as well.
Run the operations as if Activision is an independent entity. So they have to deal, Activision and Microsoft in the UK have to deal as if they're arm's length, even if they're both owned by the same people. You can totally do that. They absolutely can do that. And, it's interesting because I think that most consumers and most of your viewers don't actually appreciate that this happens in the law all the time. When companies buy intellectual property, and I'll give you as an example,
Go on, Super Dave.
A TV show like The Office, so NBC Universal owns it, because the contracts for all the talent, Steve Carell and all the people in that, depend upon ongoing residuals, royalties.
See, this is interesting that he's talking about the residuals for television, right? And me and Sarge have brought this up on the podcast about, we don't know how the deals are structured for Game Pass or for PlayStation Plus or anything like that, right? We don't know, and I've brought it up where if a game is played for 10 minutes, do they get the percentage of that $10 a month that's for Xbox? If I play Sea of Thieves for majority of that month, do they get a majority of that $10? If I jump around from game to game, does it look at it and say, it's like a time card, right? You get paid for what you played. So if the game got paid 10 minutes here, another game got paid for 2 hours there, another game, do they get a percentage of that? We don't really know.
They're required to negotiate the streaming rights with a independent third party, to make sure that the actors and other creators, the producers, the directors, cinematographers, are all getting paid the right amount. And the way to do that is they literally have to deal at arm's length, which means they have to put this out to bid someplace else. So if Netflix offers $500 million for the streaming rights, and NBC Universal for Peacock isn't willing to spend $500 million, they have to license it to Netflix, because
right.
You'd hurt the actors otherwise. So that's how you run Activision Blizzard UK PLC. Call of Duty will negotiate on the equal footing. What the UK did that was stupid was they said, if you license to Game Pass, you have to license to PlayStation Plus on the same terms. Mm-hmm. How do you come up with those terms?
Right, exactly. How do you come up with those terms for that?
Right?
Yeah.
And so do you say, okay, we want $10 per user per month for Call of Duty? I mean, you can say that, right? But how do you really know what the license is? And if Sony says, no, we're going to give you 5 cents per user per month, well, no. So it's really hard in streaming as opposed to.
Right, and what he's saying there is if someone played, if Call of Duty was on PlayStation Plus, right, because it was on Game Pass, and the CMA is saying, well, if you do this for this, then you have to do it for that. And Sony, first of all, doesn't want it on PlayStation Plus. But if they were on PlayStation Plus, well, if you play it for 10 minutes or if you play it for 10 hours, what is that percent? What are per user, right? This is what I'm talking about. You don't know what that percent of that. There's a certain amount of time in the month. You pay $10 or $20, whatever it is per month, and you play Call of Duty and only Call of Duty. How do they go, well, this person played this? They're not going to do that.
One or the other gets the rights, like it is with Friends or with The Office. Only one streaming service can get it. Microsoft's not going to let Sony have it exclusively.
No.
So that's the problem. And that's why Microsoft's just saying, screw you, Sony, no. Now, the crazy thing is, back to why all these agencies exist, they are intended to, they're formed to protect the consumer. And the term of art is from a substantial lessening of competition.
Right.
And the idea is, if there's only one place in the world to buy hamburgers, they could charge you $50 for a McDonald's burger. Not that everybody would pay that, but they could if there's only one place to buy them. So if there's only one place to play Call of Duty, Microsoft can charge more. The interesting thing is, if Microsoft supports PlayStation and Xbox and Nintendo and Nvidia and Steam,
they all suffer, boss. They all suffer. It's not just independent, right? We had a conversation a couple of weeks ago, maybe over a month and a half ago now, where we read an article about independent developers that were making games, and they said when they first, and this was talking about being on Game Pass, being on a streaming service, right? They were talking about how when they made the game early on in the life cycle of the console, it's okay for independent developers to make the game and get onto the console early. Once it's out there, and then the console's been around for 2, 3 years, 4 years, that market gets smaller and smaller because there's more games coming out. There's more games being put on the streaming service. There's less time for people to spend or to promote their certain games. So independent developers are okay with it because they're making money up front, because let's say they only were going to sell 100,000 copies and now they sell 1 million copies because 2 million or 4 million people tried the game out. Okay. They're okay with that early on. But the longer the longer the system's out there, more games are coming out, more content's on there, and it just gets saturated. Wouldn't Activision Blizzard have made their money no matter since they bought by Xbox? What do you mean as far as from Sony? Is that what you're saying? Like just because Microsoft buys Activision doesn't mean like Activision's made all their money for the remainder of their time that they've been out there. It's all return on investment, right? So they have to have Call of Duty on all the systems possible. Hence why not only taking it away from Sony, but they're giving it to Xbox or Nintendo. They're also giving it to Nvidia, right? They need to put it out there as much as possible because they need to make that $70 billion back as fast as possible. Hence why they wouldn't do it.
Valve.
Yeah.
Then there's no way if the game is $60 or $70 on PlayStation, Microsoft can charge $100 on the Xbox. They won't, right? And so that self-regulates. If you put the game on Game Pass, you're telling a new consumer who doesn't own a console, you want to play Call of Duty? $15 a month.
Right.
If you want to play Call of Duty on the PlayStation, $500 up front.
Right, and I've said this before, right? You're who's gonna buy, okay, a $500 system and then pay $70 on top of that when their competition's like, well, you can buy a console for $250. You don't even need a console. You can just stream it on your on your television set or your phone, and you pay $10, $15 a month.
Yeah,
70 for the game and $5 a month for PlayStation Plus, just so you can play multiplayer online. So we're going to charge you $10 a month more than the PS Plus price. No console and no game purchase. That's a pretty good deal. And you get 200 other games too. That's a pretty good deal. So it's hard for any regulator to say, oh, putting it on Game Pass lessens competition. It doesn't. It increases competition by eliminating the need to purchase a console.
Right. Which is then the downside, which is the downfall of gaming, in my opinion. Right? Because how do they keep up? Right? And this is my stance on this, right? I don't like where the movie industry went. I love movies going into theaters. Okay. It hurts me that movies come straight to DVD because in the old days, when a movie came straight to DVD or the VHS, and you can't lie to yourself, you're like, it's a shitty movie if it came straight to DVD, right? That was a failed attempt to make a movie, and they went, they're just throwing it to straight to video. And now we live in a world where movies go straight to streaming, right? Back in the day, that's a bargain bin movie. This is the reality that I see that's going to happen to video games in the future. Sure. And I'm not taking a stance on, is it a bad deal for consumers? No, it's a wonderful deal for consumers, right? You pay this small little fee and you get all of this content. Fantastic. But look at Netflix. They pump in so much money into these original content, and then they can't get the sub base up higher. Okay? People don't want to be subscribers. They steal or share the user's password so they can watch the video because they don't want to pay, right? Think about this. They don't want to pay the $10 a month to watch that potentially crappy movie or whatnot. They would rather share it with their aunt, their uncle, their brother, their sister, their father, their mother, their friend, whatever. Okay? So the industry going this direction is terrible for the industry itself. Okay, but we don't see it. A lot of people don't see the forest through the trees. They just like, well, that's a good deal. All these games are coming to us. But at some point, they're not going to be able to keep up with this, and the quality of games is going to come down.
I've said that since the beginning. I think it's a great consumer service. So I was really surprised by like the negative, like such a display of negativity about it. But at the end of the day, isn't Sony being smart by not signing the contract and potentially getting better terms and conditions as the case proceeds? Or is there like a cutoff point where those good graces are like no longer going to be extended? Microsoft's kind of in a weird spot, right?
I don't think Sony's being smart at all. If the UK says, okay, you offered Sony the contract good enough for us, we approve the deal.
Oh, absolutely, Dave. Jim Ryan doing what he's doing is doing exactly what he's doing. And Phil Spencer doing what he's doing is exactly doing what he's doing. They both have people that are investors, and they have to do what they have to do best in interest for the people that are investors.
And if Sony says, no, we're going to reject the contract, we want better terms, Microsoft will go, great, keep it off PlayStation. So Sony's been offered the best offer they're going to get. You want to say they're smart because they took what was a 3-year contract and got it extended to 10? That's great. Okay, yes. But thinking that it's going to go to 12 or that the price is going to be different, no chance. No chance whatsoever. Sony's whining, though, which really pisses me off, is they've been whining about exclusive content on Xbox, and Microsoft's already conceded that. There won't be any. But if you remember...
Well... They say that, but will they follow through?
And you're barely old enough, but Call of Duty came out in 2003. Multiplayer started in earnest in 2005.
I'm 41, by the way.
I'm kidding.
I love how you...
And I'm sure you played these games.
Yeah.
Multiplayer started in earnest in 2005, and DLC started around 2005. And what we saw was from 2005-ish through 2012, DLC came out on Xbox first. It was a timed exclusive. It usually was 1 month. I think it was 30 days. Mm-hmm. So you get Call of Duty in November.
Those were the days, huh? When they got exclusives and they were only for 30 days. Not 2 years. Not a year, not 2 years.
The first DLC pack would come out in January, February, and you'd have a month on Xbox. And it was available on PlayStation. And in 2013, Sony flipped that, and they went in and bid for Call of Duty DLC, which only lasted another 1 or 2 years, and then Activision stopped making it. But they went in and bought map packs and exclusives for 1 month, and they flipped around, and they've been getting timed exclusives forever. I vividly remember buying Mortal Kombat. I actually didn't buy it, but I was given Mortal Kombat for PlayStation 3. I think it might have been Mortal Kombat 10 for PS3. I'm pretty sure. That
was a good one.
Right, boss. It is eye for eye, and that's fine. But do you see what happened? It's like yeah, if you have brothers or siblings or whatever, right? You tap somebody, right? You tap your brother or sister. They turn around, they tap you, and then you tap them harder, right? And then they tap you hard, and then you just slug them, right? Like that's what's happened here in the video game industry. They're like, oh, we're only going to get an exclusive for 2 weeks or 1 month, and then the other company says, all right, we'll do tit for tat, right? We'll do 1 month, and then it's like 1 month, and it's like 1 month, and then all of a sudden one of them goes a little too far, and they're like, well, let's do 1 year, and they're like, holy shit, 1 year. All right, well, what are we going to do? Well, we could do exclusives completely, and then they're like, well, fine, we'll do exclusives, and we'll do it for 1 year, and that's the problem. If it stayed at the 1 month thing, I think that would have been fine. Like if you played a game and like what pissed me off, and it wasn't because of Sony, it was more because of Bungie, right? Especially Activision, because they were with them at the time. When they did the exclusive deal with Destiny, where it was 1 year with this gun and the dungeon or the strike, whatever, I was like, 1 year. I was like, that's crazy. Like right now, what Sony's doing with Hogwarts Legacy is a fantastic game, but they have that one extra mission that's on Sony. Okay. A year from now, I'll be honest, I'm not going to turn on Hogwarts Legacy a year from now to play that extra mission. I'm just not. I'll move on. I've lost interest at that time.
And Kratos was a playable character in Mortal Kombat 10. I think it was 10.
I always went straight to punching.
2011-ish. Right?
No, it was 9 because the next one was Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, good enough. Yeah, but it was PS3. It was PS3 era.
Yeah.
So I got Mortal Kombat 10 for PlayStation, and it had Kratos as a playable character exclusively on PlayStation. And of course he was, because he's a PlayStation-owned brand, so of course Kratos is. But it's like, where was Microsoft there? Saying, wait a minute, we want Kratos playable on our game. Like, no, because they're not whiny little babies like Sony is. So, I mean, the answer is...
When he says whiny little babies, both of them are whiny little babies at certain points. But I think Sony can be a little bit more whiny, and they have to be, because they're a much smaller company. They're a much smaller company, and this is the bigger picture. Microsoft's gaming division is very small, and they're losing to Sony PlayStation. Sony has televisions, and Sony has cameras, and Sony has all this stuff, but Sony's really good at the video game, right? They're like 70% market or whatever, okay? In that realm, they're kicking the Xbox's ass, but as a conglomerate company, they're like 1/10 or 1/15 the size of Microsoft. They're not even in the same ballpark. Like, if they all got invited to a party, Sony's on the outside, right? Because they're not in the $1 trillion club, okay? So I think it's okay for Sony to be a little bit more whiny, because they're still a smaller company compared to... They're only $1 billion company, not $1 trillion company, which is a big difference.
Sony pioneered, exclusive and timed exclusive content, and now they're whining about it. It's great for us, number one. It's bad for anybody who's...
He's not, though, Dave. You're taking it as he's giving you what analysts and this is his opinion, right? And I know you're giving your opinion that he's a Sony fanboy, but he's got no ties with either of the companies. He's just stating it how it comes across.
Who's number 2 or number 3 to get it, so we're going to complain. They really ring hollow. Their complaints just actually have no legal merit whatsoever.
He's talking from a legal standpoint.
There's a lot for me to dive into there. But the one question I want to ask you, and I had it on the list for questions I wanted to ask. Post-merger, do you think Sony or Microsoft will be seen differently by the industry? Because I think, well, I have my thoughts, but I want to hear what you think.
I think Microsoft's already there, and Netflix has single-handedly screwed up the film industry. And what Netflix did was they lowered the cost of consumption.
Yeah, but Daniel, this is not a monopoly. This is not anywhere. This is not even a duopoly, right? This is not a monopoly or duopoly. This is nothing in that realm. People, and I'm not saying you, Daniel. When people say this is a monopoly, they don't know anything about business, because this is definitely not a monopoly of what Microsoft is doing with Activision Blizzard. I know you're making an example of when we're children were playing Monopoly, but I know there's a lot of other people out there that believe that this is a monopoly, and this is not anywhere near a monopoly.
Of video content from a cable TV subscription for $85 and an occasional movie ticket or VOD or something. So maybe you spend, call it $1,000 a year to consume content. They drop the price to what's now $15 a month. So if you just want to watch a lot of TV and you're not all that particular about which programs you watch, Netflix is a phenomenal value. But realistically, if you were paying $85 and consuming 30, 40, 50 hours a month of content, and now you're paying $15, somebody lost $70.
Right.
That really happened. And I'm not saying times every consumer, but times several million people aren't subscribing to cable anymore. And if the $70 evaporated from the system, there's less money around available to support creation of content.
This is where he's getting into that. My worries are for the video game industry. What's happening to Netflix and what's happening to the streaming services of entertainment in film and television.
What you saw, which was stupid, was Peacock and Disney Plus and Paramount Plus and HBO Max kind of rushing in to fill the void. And so what we saw was that the number of scripted shows went from about 150 in the US in 2007 to almost 500 in 2022. And what we're seeing in 2023 is everybody's cutting back, including Netflix, because the market just can't support all that content. There's just not enough hours in the day and not enough subscribers.
And here's the thing, right? The problem with Netflix, that the industry let Netflix do what they did, and now they're competing against Netflix and he just said it. But if I have 15, 20 shows, and I'm just the creator of those shows. I'm putting money towards it, and then we give it to someone else to. This is the same problem this is the reason that big corporations, movie studios, can't own movie companies. Think about this, right? They can't own movie studios. They're not allowed to. There's rules in place that MGM can't own movie studios. Disney can't own movie studios. Why is that? Because they would shun out other people. They would only show their films on their stuff. Well, what's happening now, right? Everyone has their own streaming service. Everybody. Okay? This is the problem, right? The problem is that everybody has their own movie studio now, which is in your living room, and it's an app. Instead of going to a building, you're driving to a building, and Disney doesn't own that movie theater now. Now you're just going to your television or your computer and opening up that app, which is their movie theater, which has you dedicated for that actual stuff, right? Well, if you have all that stuff, you need to make money. Where you were making money before because you were giving it to a third party, advertisers and everything, and it was getting spread across the industry. Now it's insular. It's inside, okay? It's inside of the actual one studio. So if it doesn't make money, then they hurt. Meaning, so let's say Mando season 1, fantastic, right? Brought in a lot of subscribers, brought in a lot of people. They made a lot of money. Well, then all of a sudden, the Marvel shows started coming out, and they didn't bring in as many people. So they lost subscribers. Well, that's losing subscriptions across the whole board, right? People didn't keep renewing their subscription. So it lowered the quality of the content, and then they had to spread the content out. This is why there's not content coming out every single month for these original shows. They're still waiting 2 years to put it out, right? This is the problem. And with video games, when they come out with stuff like this is going to be the exact same scenario that we're seeing for video games in the future. Everyone thinks that it's going to be hunky-dory because we're all paying $10, $15, $20, $25, whatever it is. But there's going to be a point where the quality comes down because they can't keep with it.
And you're hearing now Disney Plus is losing money, Paramount's losing money, Peacock's losing money, HBO's not. Netflix isn't either. So what ended up happening is Netflix kind of single-handedly ruined the industry. Now, great.
So could Xbox be the ones that are like Netflix? Let's fast forward 15 years from now. Can we have this conversation that Xbox Game Pass single-handedly ruined the industry? Now, I know I'm putting a lot out there, but, history repeats itself.
For consumers. So I am not knocking that at all. And I could say the same thing back in the 1950s. McDonald's screwed up the restaurant industry by offering low-cost food.
That's what I'm saying.
Back in the 50s, a burger was 15 cents. So, you weren't going to go to a Denny's and spend $2 for a burger when you get it for 15 cents at McDonald's. I don't know if you remember, you're 41. Remember the $6 cheeseburger at Carl's Jr., I think it was?
I do.
Yeah, but now they can't say it because it costs more.
Disrupt, that's fine, but ruin it? Think about Netflix, man. It has ruined the industry. It has ruined the industry. Because of what Netflix did, all these other studios started making their own Netflix. That was the catalyst.
$4 to $6, but back then it was like $2.99. But the low-cost food, screwed up the restaurant industry. Netflix has screwed up the film industry, but in a good way for the consumer, because we get a lot more stuff for a lot less. So Microsoft's going to screw up the games industry by putting the last few guys who haven't figured out how to adapt out of business. I don't.
And this is the point, right? This is the point.
I think Ubisoft is actually going out of business, but they better figure out free to play and mobile and the stuff that keeps everybody alive. And so look back when you were a kid, THQ, Acclaim, 3DO. Remember those companies?
Yeah.
Midway. Yeah, they're all gone now.
Yeah, they're all gone.
Because the economics of the industry have gotten to be so bad, and Microsoft's going to make them worse. But good for Microsoft and great.
So the statement he just made, I just want to go back to what Dave said earlier, saying that he's a fanboy. He literally just said Microsoft's going to ruin the industry. Does it sound like a fanboy of a company? No, it's good for the consumers, terrible for the industry.
for consumers. And ultimately, I think that much like Netflix and Disney, there'll be one or two great streaming services. There might be one that kind of stands out because they're like HBO. They don't have very much content, but it's great. And I think consumers will play a lot more games for less money. And the model's really the cell phone model, where, when I first got a cell phone in 1991, I paid $130 a month for 30 minutes of talk time.
Yeah,
exactly,
and
boss.
I paid extra for voicemail and roaming and long distance. It was crazy. And now I pay.
Yeah, I remember I had to get charged per text and per phone call when I had my first cell phone, right? And now I pay unlimited. I have unlimited data. I can literally watch. I have hundreds of gigabytes of data on my phone because I watch YouTube so much.
$35 a month, and I have unlimited everything. Crazy, right?
it's great.
So how did that work? Because the cell phone industry went from me and a million.
But this is that scenario. This is that analogy where you punch somebody and then they punch you harder, right? The industry went, oh, we'll give you 3 months of data, and then someone's like, we'll do 6 months of data, and then when someone was like, well, we'll give you unlimited data, and everyone's like, whoa, unlimited data, and now they all have to adjust to it, right?
Million other people with a cell phone in 1991 to 3.5 billion people with a cell phone now. So 3.5 billion times 35 a month, they're still making plenty of money. Mm-hmm. That's what I think Microsoft's going to do to the industry. So I actually think you're going to go from 250 million-ish console gamers and maybe another 250 or 300 million PC gamers who actually buy content to something like 2 or 3 billion people who access games either through phones or streaming or something and spend money somehow, whether they watch ads or they.
And this is what I've been talking about for years when they announced Game Pass. I said years from now, Game Pass will be that industry thing where it's up there. It'll be the thing that we didn't know was coming. Okay. And what I mean by that is when we were using Netscape back when the internet started for the most of us, okay, Netscape was the browser. Now a company called Google came along, and they're the number one company of search engine. Now they have YouTube. You're watching me on this platform. Okay. Like they have this thing. What Xbox is trying to do with the gaming industry is make it like the Windows app. Okay. Windows is on every PC across the industry. Obviously, I know there's Linux and I know there's Apple, but you know what I'm talking about, right? This is what they're trying to do. This is why I said that Xbox is no longer playing the same game as Sony. And I said Sony needs to adjust. Okay. Sony is dominating the consoles. That's factual. Okay. They're good at what they do, but they're also the number one selling console of all time is the PlayStation. I think now the Switch is catching up to them, but PlayStation 2 at like 157 million units or something like that. Okay. That might be up a little bit, but 157 million. That's basically the saturation point. Okay. Sony won't ever get to the 200 million or the 250 million or 300 million. It's just not going to happen. Okay. Xbox is definitely not going to get there. They can't even break the 100 million mark. Okay. But all of a sudden, now you take that app and you put it on the television, your phone, the tablet, your laptop, whatever. And now you go from the 87 million units that they have for their best-selling console, and now all of a sudden you have 3 billion devices. Okay. They just got to 49 countries, 46 countries total to do Game Pass. And that is what they're doing. They're exponentially getting higher. They don't care about the 150, right? They don't care about the 150 million units that they could lose. Okay. If you want to come on board, sure. But they're going for the 3 billion. Everyone has a cell phone. Everyone. Okay. And if you don't have a cell phone, you're going to get a cell phone. Okay. And that is where Microsoft is going. And this is what they're trying to do. I'm going to rewind this just a little bit. Let me see what you guys are saying. Quality is plummet because with these devs won't be making as much money, much when people will just be buying stream gaming services to buying the console no more. They'll have to cut the middleman. Exactly. That's my point. See, I don't have a stake in this, boss, as far as PlayStation or Microsoft. I'm talking this from a business standpoint, right? as an industry. I'm a gamer, man. I don't want anyone to go away, right? One of my favorite systems of all time is the Sega Dreamcast, which no longer exists. I still have it, but it doesn't exist. Microsoft is playing chess. Sony is amazing at checkers, for those who don't understand. Exactly. I use a different analogy, right? They're playing baseball, and Microsoft's creating a brand new sport, right? That's the way I'd say it. Even if Game Pass kicked 50 cents per subscriber, the devs still won't be anything compared to $70 they can make at Sony. But think about this, and he goes on later in this conversation, boss, where he says if Microsoft gets to the point where they get, let's say, 100 million, 150 million, I think he even says up to 200 million people getting Game Pass, okay, and they're all paying $10, $15, that's like $3 billion a month that Microsoft is making, right? So think of this now, okay? Let's say they get to that point. Let's just say they get to the 200 million point. I'll even say 100 million, all right? 100 million subscribers a month, right? Like a Netflix number. Well, Xbox, why are they going to pay out for little independent developers? They'll just crush them all in. They'll bring them underneath the umbrella, right? And then they'll just make video games for their first party, and then they're inclusive in just the Game Pass, right? Third-party games will kind of get shuttered out because they can't get in, right? Xbox is like, no, we're making our own games here. We have 70 studios underneath our belt now, and we don't need anybody else. We have enough people underneath our belt that's making content that we can have. And every once in a while, a third party comes in. Let's say Hogwarts 3 comes out, and they're like, hey, Hogwarts, we'll give you money, right? How much do you think you're going to make? Well, I think we're going to make 800 million on this one. They're like, okay, here you go. Here's $1 billion. That's only 1/3 of their total revenue for 1 month, right? $3 billion. Like, here you go, right? And they get exclusive. You see what I'm saying? It makes it less and less. It's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be interesting.
They pay a subscription, so there will be more.
Here, I'm gonna rewind a little bit.
Million PC gamers who actually buy content to something like 2 or 3 billion people who access games either through phones or streaming or something and spend money somehow, whether they watch ads or they pay a subscription. So there will be more money in the ecosystem. It's just going to be earned by different people, and it's going to be earned by the guys who adapt to the new model. So yes, I think they're screwing it up for everybody, but I think it's really good for consumers. And
no, but it will hurt. It will hurt the devs' money, because here's the thing. If you talk about an independent developer, the independent developer, if I make a game, I don't know what it's going to sell. Like, I'm passionate about my game. I make the game, right? And I think, you know what? I think 100,000 people will buy the game, right? For my first game, they go, well, how many sales are you going to get? Well, I'm going to get 100,000. They're like, I'll tell you what, we're only going to give you for 70,000 games, okay? And based on if a certain amount of millions of people play your game on this, then we'll give you the extra whatever. I don't know what the deal is, right? And as the independent developer, you're like, well, 70,000, right? My money's paid off at 20,000, but I want to sell 100,000, right? And they're like, well, they're giving you money for 70,000. You're like, all right, I'll take it, right? And they take that money. But now when you're talking about AAA games, they cost $100 million, $200 million to make a game. They're not going to toss out the money up front. They're going to give you a percentage of that money. And if you're a big company, you'd be like, nah, I don't know, man. I mean, does Grand Theft Auto, Rocksteady, or Rockstar take that and go, well, we're the number one selling piece of entertainment of all time. We've 150 million units sold of GTA. They're not going to offer you enough money to pay for what you potentially could make, right? You know you have a good product, and they would just hurt you if you put it on that one console. You see what I'm saying?
Like I said, we have fewer game choices on console now because of Midway being gone. And, THQ being gone. Yes, you can still play Saints Row. Embracer makes it. Yes, you can still play Mortal Kombat. Warner Brothers bought that brand. But there's a lot of brands that are just gone. Turok. Whatever happened to Turok? Remember that? I mean, there's a lot of good old Army Men from 3DO. Like, there are these brands that are just gone forever. May never be resurrected. Not that they were great, but there were just a lot.
Apex.
THQ had Red Faction. I like that game.
Yeah.
So there were like good games, and even games from existing publishers like Max Payne. Where the hell is that? Or Midnight Club. Where the hell is that? And it's because the economics of making a 5 or 6 million unit seller aren't good anymore. Now you need 20 million. So
Right. Now think about this, right? Think about this scenario, right? Let me read what you said. You said, I see what you're saying. At that point, this is why Rockstar companies hold the power. At the end of the day, it will affect the little guys, yes, but that's not avoidable. Here's the thing. Let's say this. Let's say Xbox hits that 200 million mark. Okay? Let's say 200 million people on Game Pass at some point. Okay? Well, PlayStation has, let's say, 150 million, okay, on that one console. Okay? But now Game Pass gets to 200 million people. PlayStation's only going to sell 20 million copies, 25 million copies of the 150 million units that are out there. But Game Pass has 200 million subscribers, let's say. Okay? And all of a sudden they approach them and go, well, we'll give you exclusive rights to Game Pass. Where you're on Game Pass and you guys get 70%, we'll give you 90% of all microtransactions that happens online. Rockstar's like, okay, because that's 200 million people, okay, which is 4 times more than they would have made, more than that actually, because they would only make 25 million, right? It's like 8 times more than they would have made by going with PlayStation. Now there's 200 million people that pay a certain amount of percent that are playing active games. You see what I'm saying? You got to look at the bigger picture. Everyone's got a price. Everybody's got a price. Would it be smart for PlayStation to buy Rockstar and then Rockstar all of a sudden is only for PlayStation? Sure, that'd be a good move. It'd be a terrible move for Rockstar in the long run because they wouldn't sell as many copies as they're selling because not many people are going to come over because there are the people that just hate Sony or hate Xbox, okay? And they don't want to put $500 in to buy a thing so they can play the game, but they'll pay $1 or $10 to go try it out on their television set, their mobile phone, or whatever else. That's the problem.
Industry's just gone that way, and I think Game Pass is going to let us bring those types of titles back. So I think for consumers, Game Pass is a great move. For publishers, not as good, and for selection, not quite as good.
If you like this interview and you're one of the 50%, not miss any time that I post. Now, back to the interview. So, on the Sony side.
No, and I appreciate playing devil's advocate because it makes me have a conversation back and forth.
Of things, do you think they're actually telling the truth that this deal going through is going to have a negative impact on their ability to make their first-party games like God of War Ragnarok?
This deal is going to hurt Sony badly. That doesn't hurt consumers at all. So yes, what Microsoft is proving out is $15 a month for content is a better deal than $500 up front, $70 for the content, and $5 a month for multiplayer. And so Sony can either adapt or get run over.
And this is what I've been saying for years with Sony, right? I said Sony has to adapt. They have to adjust, which they have. They've adjusted, but they haven't adjusted enough yet. And this is why they're trying to stall out the deal going through. This is why they bought Bungie. This is why they're trying to get live service games, right? They're trying to make the change to compete, because if they don't make the changes, regardless of how much you love Sony, the company will not be able to survive in the industry where Google, Amazon, Tencent, Microsoft take over.
But that's like movie theaters saying we don't want Netflix, or TV networks saying we don't want Netflix. Mm-hmm. And the crazy thing is, if the TV networks didn't want Netflix, all they had to do was hold their content back.
Exactly.
Not sell it to Netflix.
But they did.
So imagine if every network, now again, this is illegal, but if they conspired with one another to hold all content from Netflix for 3 years. So let it have its window.
It would just short Netflix would be done.
TV, right? So HBO would have held The Sopranos or 6 Feet Under or Curb Your Enthusiasm and not licensed it, or Game of Thrones and not licensed to Netflix. That's pretty much what HBO does, right? It's not collusion. They just kind of say, we need a few years with our window. Network TV, shows like The Blacklist, literally one day after the end of the season, the entire season was dropped on Netflix. And as dumb as they are, I remember this 2012 or something. I remember I started watching Breaking Bad in the middle of season 3.
Great show.
People I work with said, oh my God, this show's so great, you got to watch it. And I went onto my cable system. I subscribed to AMC.
And just binge watched.
I go to AMC On Demand. and it was probably 7 episodes into season 3. And I looked for season 1 and 2, not available. Season 3, it started in episode 2. Or episode 3. I couldn't even record that season and get it intact. So I watched seasons 1, 2, and 3 on Netflix. Then I watched seasons 4, 5, and 6 on real-time broadcast or on DVR, excuse me. My point is that everybody kind of the opposite of colluding to hurt Netflix, actually conspired to hurt themselves by holding back on-demand content. You still kind of have trouble getting it. Like
Yeah.
My wife and I miss the.
I know he's going to say something, but I hate the fact that my son wanted to watch the original Scooby-Doo's, and there's like a couple episodes on like Amazon, and there's a couple episodes over on the streaming service, and there's a couple episodes over. And I'm just like, God damn it, dude! Why can't we just get all the info on one platform, right? It's such a hassle to try to find certain things. And as he just said, he tried to watch Breaking Bad in season 3, but he had to go to another he had to go to a different thing to go watch 1 and 2 and 3. He had to wait till 3, and then he had to go get the other. And then episode 2 wasn't there anymore because they don't go and they take it off. It's really, really bad the way they have it.
The debut of this season of Yellowstone, which is has turned into a shit show. I don't recommend it. Anyway, we missed the beginning of the season, and I tried to record it 5 episodes in or 6 episodes in, and the first 2 episodes weren't available. But literally after the 8th episode aired, they brought them all back, and I was able to record them. And I pay for Paramount Plus, and of course, it's not there because why would they put that on their own streaming service? Again, the guys who own TV content are so freaking stupid.
Yeah, they are. They're idiots.
That Netflix wins. So what's going to happen with that Game Pass is I think that the console guys like Sony will continue to be ridiculously stupid and will continue to hand advantages to Microsoft and allow them to grow.
I want to listen to that again. That part again.
I think that the console guys like Sony will continue to be ridiculously stupid and will continue to hand advantages to Microsoft and allow them to grow. I admire Microsoft because they see this happening and they're exploiting it. And remember, at the end of the day, Microsoft doesn't care about profit per game per consumer. They care about taking Game Pass from 25 million subscribers to 225 million.
Exactly. Right. And here's the thing that I've said from the very start, from when they first had Game Pass, right? Sony was number 1 in the industry, right? They're a big chunk ahead. Nintendo is not really a competition for them because they're in their own little category, right? Nintendo's just Nintendo. We always say that Nintendo's crazy Uncle Nintendo. Everyone goes left, they go right. Everyone makes a console, they make a handheld. Everyone makes a cartridge, they go CDs. They're in their Looney Tune area, and they have an established thing. Nintendo. This is why there's a fight between Sony and Microsoft. Not as Sony and Nintendo's not in there in that conversation ever. No one ever brings Nintendo in that conversation, even though everyone's impressed that God of War sold 11 million copies in 3 months. Meanwhile, Nintendo sells 10 million copies in 3 days, right? Like, they're not in the same. They're just completely different. But Sony, okay, they haven't adjusted enough. And if they don't adjust and stake their ways because we're number 1 in the console market, so we're going to stay where we are, they're going to go away of the dodo, right? And this shouldn't happen, because if they go away, right, less competition happens. Because if Sony goes away, Nintendo's in their own little ballpark. That means in this new ballpark that Microsoft is creating right now in the streaming area, okay, with the service of Game Pass, who's going to compete with them? This is why the statement that was said 2 years ago that Phil Spencer said, we're not worried about Sony, we're worried about Amazon and Google, because big money can come along and just buy up something, and all of a sudden, now they're part of the contention.
If they add 200 million subscribers, they're making an extra, I can't even do the math anymore, 300 million a month. Like, is that right? No, 3.5 billion a month.
Yeah.
3 billion a month. Yeah, 200 million incremental times $15. They're going to make 3 billion a month. Guess what? That funds a lot of content.
Yeah, that's like $40 billion a year.
They're going to be fine. So Sony is absolutely going to get their ass kicked, and it's not bad for consumers.
Right. It's not bad for consumers yet. but it will be bad for consumers because there's less competition. If there's less competition, that means the quality of the products will go down. Hence, look at Madden. Hence, look at Call of Duty.
So are we at sort of a reset point where the industry is sort of like you brought up in television and stuff like that? And for me, I look back at that time in history.
Dave, you're saying that they're not going to go anywhere, but listen, they might be a niche market in the future. You see what I'm saying? Like they might make good money, sure, but they're not making 3 billion device money. They're making 157 million device money.
And I'm like, I feel like we're going through that again right now, where a lot of companies are realizing they haven't created sustainable models, or they just, like Ubisoft has made a lot of strange products that didn't resonate with consumers. So now they're sort of in this difficult position. Are we at sort of a reset point where there is going to be a lot of consolidation, which concerns some people, and then we move forward with the next generation of companies that spring up? That's been my theory.
Right. Don't get it confused. Sony with PlayStation makes good money. Xbox could be losing their ass, but it doesn't matter. Microsoft it's attached to the wallet. Daddy Microsoft is paying the bills.
We're in the middle of a shift of how people consume games. And so, 20 years ago, the only way to consume a game was to buy it outside of China, was to buy it and play it on a console or PC. There were, I say 20 years ago by design because I'm the year before World of Warcraft came out. Mm-hmm. So there, I mean, and again, I know that there were other subscriptions, but not big.
2003.
So 99% of game revenue came from selling a product, whether it was packaged or digital download, and that was how we played games. Fast forward 20 years, and now in 2023, probably 70% of all game revenue comes from mobile, and probably the remainder 15%-ish is some type of free-to-play game experience, right, like League of Legends, or World of Tanks or Apex Legends on PC or console. And then the rest is that pay as you go, pay $50, $60 for a game. So the companies that haven't adapted, and Ubisoft is a good example, have watched the whole world fly by them like they were standing still. The console market in 2011, the console PC, was like 22, 23 billion to sell games. Today it's like 15. So the industry has shrunk. The only reason Ubisoft hasn't shrunk materially is because between 2011 and now, Midway and THQ and IDOS, went away.
Right, the competition went away.
Still been in business, and wow, would have been tough to. How do you survive in a market that's shrinking like that? So think of console games the way you think of movie theaters. There will always be a desire to play a game that way. The highest quality experience. Seeing Avatar in IMAX, for
it's exactly what I've been saying. Exactly what I've been saying.
$15 is worth it, as opposed to waiting for it to be on your phone. You're just not going to. I mean, you can do that, but you won't do that. So yeah, there will always be a need for console games, but it's going to go from 15 billion to 10, and it's just like movie business. You're not going to have 50.
Think about the industry where it's changed from in 2017 to 2018, right? Everyone was pushing. Right? Everyone was pushing digital. I don't want to play. I don't want to buy digital. Right? It was 20% of the market was buying digital in 2017. 80% was buying physical copies in 2017. They thought in 5 years it was going to swap. It swapped in 1 year. In 1 year, it went from 20 to 80 to 80 to 20. Right? In 2018, 80% of the people bought digital copies of games and 20% bought physical copies. That's how fast.
$50 million box office films starring Rob Lowe in a romantic comedy, they aren't going to be made anymore. It's all big blockbuster stuff. So we'll still have Call of Duty and FIFA and Battlefield and Assassin's Creed, but I doubt you're going to see games like The Crew get made and sold for any material amount.
No more.
So the future is the free-to-play business, and
it's funny, boss. I bought my computer and I didn't know this because I haven't purchased a disc for a PC game in like a decade, right? I bought my computer back in 2016. About 3 months ago, I realized that it had a disk drive. I had a disk drive. Never once opened it. It's been closed and never been opened, not once, since I had my computer since 2016. Never.
And I mean, maybe someone will come up with a new hybrid model. To me, I think ad support is actually the most fascinating part of all this. But let's say you're Grand Theft Auto Online, right? You do 400 million a year in revenue from GTA Online. The only people who can play it are one of the 145 million people who bought GTA 6 or 5 on console or PC. What if you just put that on Game Pass?
I forgot that he talked about this. This is exactly right. Right? I was just talking about it. It's if there's a spot, and this is exactly what I was talking about with GTA. If there's 200 million people on Game Pass, right? Rockstar will be like, you know what? It took us a really long time to sell 145 million copies. But if we can get instant access to 200 million people and we have online where we can charge $1, right? That's a lot of extra moolah. It's a lot of extra moolah, man.
It's free. How many players will you get? How about 25 million overnight, like you will?
Yeah. Yeah, and this is exactly what we're talking about. This is how fast it could happen. The example I just did about 1 year of 2080 to 8020 digital physical. Okay. If Game Pass got that game, whatever that game is, right? We'll use it as Grand Theft Auto in this scenario. Grand Theft Auto 6, okay, comes out and they have an exclusive on Game Pass, early access on Game Pass. Okay. That number goes from 25 million to 100 million, right? Overnight. Okay. And that right there would be earth-shattering for Sony. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I'm saying it could happen that fast, right? It could happen that fast with the game. Travis says not going to happen. I'm just giving a prediction of what could happen, or speculation, not a prediction, right? A speculation of what could happen, Travis. Right? But it's that fast. One game comes out that takes over all of a sudden the gaming market just loves it. And they go there. Well, now they give it for free. Now it's on Game Pass, and the people that didn't have Game Pass or weren't going to have Game Pass or don't even have an Xbox, now all of a sudden come in to play that one game. Well, now once you're in that game, okay, let's say you put 20 hours in, you put 40 hours in, you beat the game, you're done with it. And then all of a sudden, now you're like, oh, what else is on Game Pass? Done. Right? That's what they want. They want to try to keep you on that platform as much as possible. Take-Two already said that even if they try to put it on Game Pass, it won't get it, period. Travis, everybody has their price. Everybody.
World of Warcraft. Well, Microsoft owns that. You're a World of Warcraft player paying $15 a month. What if they tell you, oh, by the way, you still have your WoW subscription and you get everything else?
There you go.
That's great.
Think about what he just said there, right? 25
million overnight, like you will.
Right.
World of Warcraft. Well, Microsoft owns that.
World of Warcraft. What about if they take World of Warcraft and all of a sudden you're a paid subscriber to World of Warcraft, right? Do they still subscribe? Can you still subscribe to World of Warcraft? I haven't played in 7 years, so I don't know. Is there a free mode and a paid mode, or is there only free now? Right? Regardless, if there is pay, let's say you paid $10 a month to play World of Warcraft, but now you're a PC gamer, and they go, you know what? We've taken World of Warcraft and we're putting it on Game Pass. And you pay the exact same $10, but now you're included into Game Pass, so now you can play other games as well. That right there is a huge chunk right there. You can, but most don't. Okay.
You're a World of Warcraft player paying $15 a month. What if they tell you, oh, by the way, you still have your WoW subscription and you get everything else? That's great.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's, so the models
icing
are
on the
going to
cake.
adapt. I think you're going to get a lot of free-to-play content showing up on the subscription services. I think Sony could get that, right?
Everybody's got their prices out of the problem we got in the first place. Yeah, but you think that's going to go away? You think someone's going to just stop taking money and be like, you know what? I got a good heart. No, they want their payday.
Will Sony put new releases day and date on their service. No, because they are clinging to the myth, the console business.
I have a question, boss. Do they put Final Fantasy? Is Final Fantasy 14? Is it on the PlayStation Plus? Is it on PlayStation Plus? BDO 2 was online casino and was cringe. Wow, it's too huge for Sony. It would blow their servers. Right. No, it's not. Okay. Can you imagine? Now, that would be game-changing for Sony. That would be game-changing for Sony. If they took their MMO, right, and did sort of like the business model what ESO is doing, right, where you put it on there, and anyone that has PlayStation Plus gets the monthly fee, right? It's included in that. That would be huge for Sony if they did something like that.
Business is healthy.
No, General, I wasn't having an interview. This is their interview. This is their interview that we're breaking down.
And will remain healthy. It's not going to be. It's going to shrink. So again, they don't need it day and date. They can do it 3 months later, just like movies are in the theater. If you didn't see, this is on HBO right now. I think Babylon or his Paramount.
I've been pausing it for the last hour and a half. That would be a steal. I don't think Sony would do it. Would like that. Yeah, but they would explode their player base on PS Plus, right? More people would come and get PS Plus just to play that.
It's on one of the services. I didn't see it. I didn't care. But it's on the service. I just saw Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Yeah.
What a great movie. But I didn't, I don't even remember being in the theater, right? But it's nominated for everything. And there it is, free. I don't even know when it came out. But boom, free. So you can watch, we're all trained with movies. If you wait 3-4 months, it's going to show up on some system anyway.
Right.
Sony should be doing that now. They should say, okay, we had God of War. I mean, frickin' Warner Brothers Interactive should figure out a way to put Harry Potter, the game, Hogwarts, on some streaming service. Microsoft right now, I bet would pay up big time for that.
I bet they would.
I mean, they've already sold 12 million copies. Why not?
Yeah, that's a good point. And right.
And the reason he's saying that is you look at it and go, well, why would Warner Brothers do that? They would lose money. Would they? They already got 12 million copies in the first 2 weeks, right? The game is the most popular in the first month to 3 months. After that, it's a slow trickle to get to whatever, right? But if they get money up front from Microsoft, they could pay them big bucks up front, and they're already making more money on top of the money they already made back, right?
Anyway, I don't know if that would ever happen, but actually,
it won't. But it won't because they all cling to the past and they're not thinking about the future.
Yeah, I'm sort of curious. I think one of the predictions that I've seen that you've made, that I hear you get a lot of criticism for, is the one about how the console is going to go away. I believe you said something along those lines. Is that correct?
We've been talking about that.
Yeah, I mean,
the next cycle
it became a big deal is when the PS3 came out, I wrote a industry report, and I said the last great console cycle, and people read that to me. It was
a good console cycle.
Yeah, but people read that to mean there would never be one after that. And in my 175-page report, single-spaced report, I in fact said it would be bigger than the next one. So the PS3, Xbox 360 cycle would be bigger than the PS4, Xbox One cycle. And that turned out to be true. And I said that the PS4, Xbox One cycle, which I didn't know the names back in 2006, would be bigger than the PS5, Xbox Series X cycle, which so far has proven to be true. Mm-hmm. All I'm saying is that as we get more opportunity to play games elsewhere, we're going to spend less time consuming games on consoles. And it's the same exact logic for box office, essentially, if you ignore ticket price. Turnstile turns.
Real quick, I just want to remind people that this is Destin Laguerre. He's got a channel at Destin, right? If you want to head over there, give the video a like. He's got a couple videos of this interview he broke up on there. But this is his footage. So go to his channel, subscribe to his channel, give likes to the video, and also give likes here as we break down and give you my own opinion on top of this.
Box office attendance has gone down every year for about COVID, but literally there's been 1 or 2 years where it's flat or up 1%.
Mm-hmm.
That's hit driven. But on a long-term trend, it's dropped 3% a year for the last 20 years. And that's because we can consume movies elsewhere. So my argument back in 2006 was, as we are given an opportunity to consume video game entertainment elsewhere, we will spend less hours on console gaming. We spend less hours, we will necessarily buy fewer games. Now, in 2006, I didn't see Call of Duty becoming the phenomenon that it's become. Because it wasn't. I think there were probably 2 million or 3 million people who played multiplayer back in 2006. I certainly didn't see FIFA Ultimate Team becoming the phenomenon that's become 25 million people.
Yeah.
But so clearly the console guys have done things, and GTA Online, to perpetuate
GTA Online is huge.
To keep it going and going and going. So it's been slower than I thought, but I'm absolutely right. It is still happening. And again, I use the movie model as my analogy, and that's the right analogy. Game streaming is 12 years behind movie streaming. Netflix, believe it or not, they started video streaming in 2007.
Yep.
Got big in 11. We're in 2023, and game streaming is still not that big. Give it another 10 years. I mean, here you and I would say give it 5. Talking, sitting 50 miles apart with pretty.
Because it gets exponentially faster. Technology moves exponentially. So I would say give it 5, 7 max.
High-speed internet. It's only a matter of time before everybody has that. I believe, and I'm not an expert, 5G.
He's talking about just gaming, streaming in general, Jesse. He's talking about where we were with consoles before. Every console cycle total has been less and less, right? The peak was PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, right? And every cycle after that's been less and less. But yet, gamers have gone up and up, right? Less consoles, more gamers. Less people buying consoles, more people spending money.
Is going to be that thing. I've read that 5G, if they ever get enough towers everywhere, will replace fiber internet and be faster. Oh. So if that happens, then we'll stream anything we want, anytime we want. Obviously, lag is an issue. And if you want to play multiplayer competitively in a shooter game, then even 20 or 30 milliseconds is too slow, right, of lag. It won't be fair. So we'll still play console games. There will be that component of the population.
Here's the thing, though. That could be an easy. I mean, obviously, it's not an easy fix. But what I'm saying is, if they only sell the game on that console or in that thing where there's no cross play or cross progression and everyone's on the same playing field as far as it's web based or streaming over the internet, then everyone's going to have lag. It's going to be more lag for one than the other, but that's the way to do it. If someone has the game on their system and someone doesn't, obviously they're going to have an advantage.
That isn't everybody who plays Call of Duty.
High speed internet and whatnot.
Slow twitch guys like me, if I play any multiplayer game, it's Overwatch and I'm Reinhardt. I'm a tank. I move, and I could care less about lag when I'm trying to figure out how to move from here to there.
Well, this is what he does for a living. Okay, he works for a company that does analytics for the movie industry, the video game industry. This is what he does. He's been doing it for over 20 years.
Block out, my Hanzo or whatever. I don't care. So, that's most players. I think most players aren't good enough, competitive enough to care. Most meaning more than half. I don't mean 90%, but sure, I think there still will be purists who play on console only. I know people who play Fortnite on their phone.
Right.
That's clearly not the best experience.
And they don't care.
But you can participate. You can do stuff, and they do. So I get it.
It's more about accessibility, right? At the end of the day. And
totally.
What I was going to follow up with is, do you think we're closer to that reality than ever before? Because even just looking at what Microsoft's doing, you can play on PC, you can play on your phone, you can play in your browser. You don't even need hardware anymore, but you bring up the lag component and things that still need to be overcome. So You kind of hit on all that though.
So everything I do is based on my keen grasp of history.
What he says next, that's basically what I do, right? I know it's a joke, and we have an emote channel where I predict things, okay? And I don't have any credibility as far as I'm not a writer, I'm not an influencer as far as a big person that, but I've made bold predictions on my stream over the years, and those of you that have been here for years know that I say a lot of stuff, and all of it, or most of it, comes true, okay? And the reason I do what I do is based on, I read a lot, man. I read a lot of industry stuff. I read a lot of articles. I played a lot of games. I've been playing games since I was 3 years old. I am 44 years old, okay? I love video games. I love the movie industry. I worked in the movie industry for 20 years. I love the business aspect of stuff. It's just experience of where I pull in my information and the way right? Some of you think I just bullshit and talk, but it's the experience that I have, and now he's going to say basically the same thing.
And extrapolating history and assuming it's going to repeat itself.
You see what I'm saying?
If you kind of roll back to the 1940s, the only way you could consume filmed entertainment was in a movie theater. And I couldn't even tell you even how many people there were in the U.S. But let's say, there are 100 million people in the U.S. and it's probably 150, but it's something like that. And 90% of them went to the movie theater and consumed films. Well, here we are, 80 years, 90 years later, 85 years later. And we have 7 different ways to consume filmed entertainment. We have obviously the theater, then we have television.
All the same amount of time.
And then you've got various ways to pay per view, video on demand, rent a DVD, right? Streaming services, premium cable. There's just all these different ways to pay, right? How many people consume filmed entertainment now in the U.S.?
Right. Well, how many people take the film, consume film? But we all have 24 hours in the day. There's a lot more entertainment now than there was back in the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, right? Like, most of you probably don't even watch television anymore. You watch just YouTube. I know I watch most of my 90% of my income, or like intake of content, is through YouTube.
And the answer is 330 million, all of them. And how many hours did we consume movies in the 1940s per person?
Right. 20
a year. When it's 10 movies. How many hours do we consume filmed entertainment now in a day? I don't know, 7. A lot.
Yeah,
right? And I'm including YouTube videos. I'm including TikTok, right? But we literally, like my phone, I read the paper on my phone, but 7 hours a day I'm on my phone. So it's the number of people who consume entertainment has exploded, and the number of hours has exploded, and that's because of accessibility, because we've made content available in so many different forms.
That's what Xbox is trying to do. Xbox is trying to take, you have 24 hours in a day, and you remember the last Xbox they tried to pitch to us where it was going to be a box on top of your television set, and it failed miserably because they told you they were making a box on top of your television set that was going to be the cable box, and everyone pushed back on it and said, I don't want this in my right? You know what else did that? If the government said, I want you to carry a microphone and a camera with you at all times, you would have said, go screw yourself. You would have pushed back. But when they charge you $1,000, you're more than happy to put this in your pocket and carry it with you and videotape things and listen to things. You're happy to do that because they didn't tell you to do it. It's like free will. Okay. Well, now Xbox got rid of the box. They got rid of the box. Now it's just an app that you could put on your thing that you carry around, okay? Okay? That you can put on your television set, that you can play wherever, whenever you want, okay? Do you see? Right? They've planted the seed, they've retracted the seed, right? Now they're just watering it. They're just watering that seed over the years.
Games are just getting there. The reason mobile is a $100 billion market and console is a $15 billion market is that...
You hear that stat? Did you hear that stat? This is why they're buying Activision now.
It's a $100 billion market, and console is a $15 billion market.
$100 billion market, mobile. $15 billion market, console. Why is Microsoft buying Activision? It's not because of Call of Duty.
Market is that anybody with a phone can play a mobile game. And to flip that upside down, anybody with a console can play a console game, but you got to have $500 to have a console. Yeah. So, the phone, you could say, well, you got to have $500 to get a phone, but not really. You got to have 30
monthly
bucks
plans.
a month.
Which Microsoft has also done. You can do monthly plans with their systems because they don't care how you get it. They just want to get you in the door.
At a T-Mobile, and they'll give you a Galaxy S2 or whatever. I mean, you can get a free phone for $30 a month.
Yeah.
So no, it's not expensive, and we don't buy our phones to play games. That's the number one activity. That's not why we buy a phone. We buy a phone to communicate. Mm-hmm. So, ultimately, there's 3.5 billion phones out there. That's just 3.5 billion more people who consume games than we used to have. 20 years ago, pre-cell phone, 30 years ago, maybe 100 million people played games on console and PC. Mm-hmm. Now it's 3.5 billion. So accessibility is absolutely the driver. And more.
That's crazy to me, man. To imagine that I've been in the less than 100 million and now it's 3 billion. Holy Christ.
More consumption means more people who care about the content, who are willing to pay something, willing to watch ads or whatever.
That's 2.9 billion people that used to make fun of me when I was playing video games when they were doing other things.
Willing to subscribe, willing to buy stuff in app. That's more for more developers. It's just that the shift has become mobile. I'd love to see the super premium content continue, but fewer and fewer people are going to be willing to spend $70 on Call of Duty, especially when it's free on Game Pass.
You actually brought up with that.
Real quick before he says the next thing, that's exactly it, right? The normal person that doesn't care about 30 frames or 60 frames, right? They look at their price. And they go to the store and they go, I could buy this box, or I don't even have to buy the box, and I get all these games. Or I have to spend $500 and get the game on top of that. Okay? Most people want to save money, right? Most people want to save money. Okay? So they're not going to go buy the $500 system and then the $70 game on top of that. Okay? They're going to go buy the $250 version of the game, which is an inferior product, but they're going to buy that because for $1 or $10, they can not only get that one game, but they can also get 100 other games on top of that.
Conversation about Call of Duty being on Game Pass. You said in an interview closer to when the merger was announced that Sony is effed. You sort of alluded to that today. So are they just going to stop existing, or PlayStation specifically? Sorry.
No, Sony's they're going to stick to what they know. There's a concept in management called the Peter principle, where you get promoted for doing really good work, and you do good work at your next level, you get promoted again. And the time when you stop getting promoted is when you can no longer do good work. So you reach your peak.
Yeah,
and then you don't get promoted
saturation
anymore
point
because you can't excel. Sony is kind of that way. They've had a successful formula since 1994 with the PlayStation 1, and they've stuck to it.
What do you mean by that? Media plays a giant role in this, or won't matter? Media? You mean media like news media? Like what media are you talking about? As far as movies media?
And it's worked brilliantly for them. And Nintendo, same. It's worked brilliantly for them. And I don't think that they are very good at self-reflection. I don't think they look at the world around them and say, what are we not doing? So as an example, their counter to Microsoft buying Activision was to buy Bungie. Why? Because Destiny is so freaking popular. I mean, what the hell? What was that, right?
You can see Destin, because Destin played a lot of Destiny, right? Now, I don't know if he's smirking because he doesn't know if Michael knows that Destiny is very popular, or if he's smirking because Destiny is just that it really is popular, but it's not popular, right? It gets more credit than it should, because it's just kind of a mid game at this point. Let me rewind. Look at his face. Watch his face.
They look at the world around them and say, what are we not doing? So as an example, their counter to Microsoft buying Activision was to buy Bungie. Why? Because Destiny is so freaking popular. I mean, what the hell? What was that, right?
All right, let me see. As in news coverage, helps Sony to adapt, or will they deter Microsoft from affecting their image? Is like how much do they... As far as this acquisition goes, right now the news is spinning it towards Microsoft, right? Which is not surprising, right? Because Microsoft has big pockets, and a lot of the broadcasts and a lot of the people that are taking the who's broadcasting and then talking about the news afterwards is leaning more towards Microsoft. So in the public eye already, Microsoft is the good guy in this, even though there's not really a good guy, bad guy, but the public persona of it right now, the media is spinning it, but I don't really think it has a big push, because a lot of people, the people that are in the know, and the people that don't know kind of really don't care. They kind of look at it 30,000 feet up in the air, and they're just like, you're like, oh, I heard Sony is they're being babies, and they're trying to stop Call of Duty, but it's not really about Call of Duty. It's about them holding their 70% market share. You know what I mean?
And it's not, again, Bungie's great, but they don't make mobile games. Where's Sony in mobile? Oh, no, they're a console publisher. They can't do mobile. Where Activision bought King. Look at that. You know, EA bought Glue. Take-Two bought Zynga. Like, what's wrong with you, Sony? Maybe you should be doing some of this free-to-play stuff.
I wonder, and this is just a speculation on my part. I know it was years ahead, right? Like 2 years ahead. But usually when deals are going through and there's like murmurs of people getting bought out, Destiny was part of Activision, and I know they didn't see eye to eye with Activision, but do you think that Bungie knew that Activision was going to be sold at some point? And obviously, there's only a certain amount of people that can buy Activision. So do you think Bungie was like, we want out because they don't want to go back under? Because imagine if Bungie was still with Activision, they might get us scooped up with Microsoft, and they would be back with Microsoft again. I know that they didn't own them, but they were in a contract with them, right? So it'd be interesting to know.
So I think what's going to happen is Sony's market's going to get smaller and smaller and smaller. They'll continue to thrive because they're actually good at what they do. PlayStation 6 and 7 and 8 will be great. In fairness, like
he just said, he confirmed PlayStation 7 and 8.
I have a PS5. I have a PS4 Pro. I honestly can't tell the difference in the games. I mean, and can you name all the PS5 exclusive titles? I think there might be one. I think there's one.
PlayStation 5, there's two. There's two.
I think is Horizon PS5 exclusive?
Ratchet and Clank.
PS5
on PS4.
exclusive. No,
just on PS5.
Ratchet and Clank, Gran Turismo.
I think they've made one.
GT, Gran Turismo.
Yeah,
I think that's right. Right. So the point is, why do I even need a PS5? And it's not Sony's fault. It's that the
PlayStation 5 exclusive, right? I think there's one more, isn't there? I think there's like three games.
The improvement between the PS4 Pro and the PS5 is just not that great to justify making a game exclusive. So the PS6 won't be anything special. I mean, let's be real. Like, you're constrained by the quality of your television, right? And I have an LG, OLED 4K awesome TV, but it's like shit. PS4 Pro puts it out at that level. It looks fine. I get that you'll have 240 frames a second instead of 60 or something, right? It'll be faster. Can I even tell? I mean, I could.
Most people can't tell. The people that are listening to me right now, majority of you probably can tell. But out of the 3 billion people that could play video games, or 3 billion people, whatever it is, okay, majority of those people probably can't tell the difference between 30 and 60.
Good side by side. I can't game to game. I can't tell. So I think Sony's kind of in a diminishing business environment. By definition, it's just going to keep diminishing. Microsoft's going to probably get out of the console business. I mean, they'll probably make one more after this, just because they can, but they'll get out of it. And their next generation console is probably going to be this multimedia thing that that you can do all sorts of different streaming and shit, and it'll be a router and it'll stream to every different rooms and all sorts of shit.
That's not true. That's not true. You're talking about the people that are like pure gamers, right? Like I'm a pure gamer, but at the same time, I play 60, I play 30. I can go back and forth. I know a lot of people say that once they play 60, they can't go back. What the statement should be is once you play 60, you don't want to go back, right? You don't want to go back because you've seen it. You've seen what it could be, and now you've raised your bar. So now you want to all games be 60 frames per second, right? And that's the difference, right? I said this last night in my stream when we were playing Battlefield, right? There's people that say, right? Water said this last night in our stream, Water Bear. He's like, I can't go back, right? And I said, no, you don't get nauseous. I think that's a subliminal thing. I do. I'm not saying that you don't get. I'm not going to say that people don't get nauseous. There are people that get nauseous. My wife gets nauseous when she puts a headset on to do VR and stuff like that. People do get nauseous, right? But the majority of the people, if they played 60 and 30, if I did a Pepsi challenge or a Coke challenge, okay, and we showed it to 1,000 people and lied to them and said this is running at 60 frames per second on this screen, they'd be like, oh, okay. And then tell them it's running at 30 frames per second without ever changing it. They would then tell you that, oh, yeah, I could totally tell. And I guarantee you, majority of the people would not be able to tell. Majority. I'm not saying the small minority, right? There are people that can tell, but the majority of the people would be like, oh, yeah, that looks like 30 frames. They'd be like, well, that's running at 60. And they'd be like, oh, really? Oh, like that would happen.
But Nintendo's going to stay the course. And the difference between Sony and Nintendo is Nintendo has more owned IP, and Nintendo is a little different. It's positioned more as a handheld company than a console company. So they can probably keep going for another 10, 15 years. Sony's going to have trouble the next 10 years, I think. Not go away, but get smaller.
On the Xbox side.
Well, are they going to get smaller? Or if there's no competition, they're not going to grow. You know what I mean? So they could stay the same.
There was actually a rumor going around a week or so ago that they could potentially be spun off or sold off from Microsoft. Do you ever see that becoming a reality?
I don't understand Microsoft's internal working, so I don't want to. I'm far from an expert on that. But Microsoft noticed in the last decade or so that as they pivoted from offering Office or Windows and Office for, call it $400 every time you bought a PC, they shifted to offering a subscription for, call it $100 a year. And I remember signing up for that because I'm kind of a cutting edge PC guy, and I'm like, oh yeah, I buy a PC every 2 or 3 years, and so instead of $400 every 3 years, I'll pay $100 every year.
I don't think Horizon Forbidden West is PC only or PlayStation 5 only. I think the DLC for that is PlayStation 5 only, Predator. I think Horizon Forbidden, I'm pretty sure it's on PlayStation 4 as well. Is it not? Or is Horizon Forbidden West on just PlayStation 5? I know the DLC is only for PlayStation 5. I'm not sure about Horizon. I don't have a PlayStation 5, so I'm not too sure. But I'm pretty sure I thought Horizon Forbidden West was on 4 and 5, but the DLC is only for 5.
That's a better deal. I haven't bought a PC since 2019. I'm actually ready to now. I'm due. But they actually got 400 out of me this last cycle. And my next PC, I'm guessing, because I'm going to probably build it late this year.
I hate Michael. He just comes off as arrogant. Maybe it's just people with Michael, the name Michael, Dupless. Right? My name is Michael. Right? I'm not arrogant, but I don't think he's arrogant. I think he's speaking from experience. I think this is what he does for a living, right? He knows about the industry insiders of how the numbers move, right?
Years after that. So they've converted the model to, they saw this coming, fewer $400 purchases, it's a subscription. And of course, my kids each have the subscription and my wife has the subscription. My household pays Microsoft $400 a year. So they figure that out. They look at gaming the same way. They can sell games this way and get hundreds of millions of people.
Yeah. And this is what I've been saying. I might be arrogant too. See, boss's name is Michael too, right? Hey, we're all arrogant, right? Because we all know what the hell we're talking about, right? I've said this for years on this channel that they just want you in on their stuff, right? They know that the software is where it is, right? They just want you in. Once you're in their base of operations, they got you, right? You get a subscription model. Why buy Microsoft Office when you can subscribe to Microsoft Office, right? Why pay $400 to get the Windows when you can subscribe to have Windows?
People to subscribe. So I think it's such a big profit driver for them that they won't spin it off. Again, I don't know internally what they're looking at or what they're planning.
Yeah. Maybe we'll do these a little faster if you're running short on time. If not, just take your time. But do you think the FTC drops the case?
Drops is the wrong word. All the parties will settle. And so the FTC's already sued to block it. Mm-hmm. What will happen is that the parties, FTC and Microsoft, will go to court. They will enter into a consent decree where the FTC consents to what Microsoft offers. And the FTC says in exchange for that, they will drop the lawsuit.
See, all this legal shit, okay, it's a foreplay for lawyers, right? It's foreplay for lawyers. They know the outcome of the whole thing, right? They're like, we're gonna go into the litigation and then we're gonna sue and we're gonna get this, but the income, they already know what it is. They're just getting more money in their pockets.
They will approve the deal. So it's not really drop it; it's reach an accommodation, and the accommodation is going to be, in simple words, maintain the status quo. Mm-hmm. So Sony keeps getting supported, and Xbox doesn't get anything ahead of Sony, and the support is at the same quality level as on Xbox. Microsoft obviously has gone a step further and offered to support Nintendo, Nvidia, Valve, whatever. But I think they offered Amazon and Stadia too. But whatever. That the status quo is maintained, and the FTC will run a victory lap and say, "Look, we caused
we did
big tech to bend the knee," and they did.
Yeah.
So they've conceded, and we're happy with the concessions, and we protected the consumer, and the deal goes through. And I think this happens.
We protected the consumer, but the company still gets the bigger company and will hurt the industry in the long run. We did a good job. Good job, FTC.
It's in April, so it's timely. It's happening soon.
Yep. Well, the UK stuff is, but
I think the UK is going to cave too. When the other two guys cave, what's the UK's legal argument? Mm-hmm. And then if the solution in the UK is, okay, great, we'll operate it separately for the 3 years that it takes to.
Oh, sure. That's their job, right? My job as a safety patrol officer is to stop people from running. But I let people run so I can say, hey, stop running.
To litigate, then we're going to beat you over the head in court. In the meantime, if you're a UK Game Pass subscriber, you're whining, how come I have to buy Call of Duty and everybody else gets it for free in every other region? And what's the UK? The UK CMA is going to go, yeah, we're protecting you by making you spend $70 more to play Call of Duty. That's stupid. No. But ultimately, no. I think that the consumer brings the CMA down by complaining that it's not fair. All my Call of Duty, squad mates in the US and France are playing it as part of Game Pass, and I have to pay. Yeah. How is that protecting me?
Right.
Yeah. That's a good point. Why did Berkshire Hathaway reduce their stake in Activision?
No idea. I mean, who knows? I honestly do not understand anything those guys do. They're smarter than me. Maybe they had enough. I don't know.
They're tired of the drama.
I actually don't know the answer. It's gone up a lot, so
it's up to 80 or something right now. But
yeah, it was at 72. And I don't even know where they bought. The deal was announced when Activision was at 64. Oh, I don't know where Berkshire Hathaway bought it, but it's entirely possible they manage their exposure. I don't know.
And I believe you said something along the lines of like, it seems like it's no lose stock. Am I incorrect, or could you?
Yeah, I did. The way you would value stock. Okay, again, investors don't actually endorse this, my opinion, yet, but they will. The games industry has growth potential at least equal to the rate of gross domestic product growth. So global GDP growth, call it 3%. Long term, the games industry will grow at least 3%. The games industry has going for it increasing gender diversity, so more women entering and playing. And I'd say, girls under 20 all play games. Girls over 50 don't play games as much, right? But, ultimately it's going to be 50-50.
Hear that, fellas?
Probably
girls under 20 all play games. Boy, has that changed since I was 20.
60-40 now. So you've got another 10 percentage points or so there. You've got a lot of age growth because every year 80-year-old guys die and there's somebody new who never played games, and there's somebody born who's going to play games for the rest of their lives. Mm-hmm. So those things add about 2%.
Yeah, I've seen Ready Player One
to the 3% GDP growth. And then you've got technological advancement and business model advancement, so changing the model from buying a console and a $70 game to subscribing or playing on a mobile phone. And those things, technology meaning streaming, that adds another 1 or 2%. So when you get an industry that's growing 6 or 7%, the market's lucky if it grows 3. So these guys are growing twice as fast as the market. They should trade at a premium to the market.
Right.
The market trades at about 17 times earnings. Activision should trade at about 20 times, and they're going to make $450. Simple. They're worth 90 more. They're trading at 80.
That was some stocky stuff that I don't understand, but I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, but the multiple just means that if you expect to generate $4.50 of earnings of return on your investment every year, mm-hmm. what will you pay for that? And the overall market says it'll pay 17 times that. And I'm just saying a company that's growing better than that, the 450 is going to grow if the market, if the company grows. The market will pay 20 times that. So $90 is about what it's worth.
That's what, 12% growth a year?
Oh, no, the earnings growth would only have to be about 7.
Oh, wow.
And you would pay 20 times.
Okay, cool.
I guess I'm saying, like, if you were to buy an apartment and rent it out to somebody, mm-hmm. how much would you pay for it if you knew you were going to get $450 a month in rent? There's a multiple. You say,
right,
okay, if I invest, whatever.
You don't want to invest more than
$1,000
to get out of it.
$450 a month? Yeah, of course, because you're getting $5,000 a year.
Yeah.
Would you invest $10,000? Yeah. Would you invest $100,000? Maybe. But the answer is somewhere in between. That's how you determine what stocks are worth. You determine how much you're going to earn, and then you decide what you're willing to pay for that.
Got it. Well, I don't want to take up any more of your time because this has been.
All right, so that's the end of the interview, and I want to make sure you guys go over to his channel, right? So real quick, I'm gonna grab the link and I'm gonna make sure it's in my to this video, okay? And I'm gonna put it in the. I'm gonna put it. Let's see, interview from Destin. All right, it's right underneath the description. Okay, go over to his channel. Right, go over to his channel. Hit it, and then just hit the like button if you like he did the whole interview. All I did was watch his interview and repeat over it. I don't want to take views away from him. I know we're a small channel. We only have 26, 27 people here, but those 26, 27 people can give 26, 27 more likes on his channel. If you like the interview, go tell Destin on his channel what a great interview it was. I like stuff like this, right? And I like doing breakdowns and stuff like this. I thought Michael did a fantastic job answering the questions. I thought Destin did a really good job doing the interview and asking the questions. So, what's going on, Robert? I liked Free Guy. Ready Player One was a good flick. I don't know if we'll ever get to that point. I mean, potentially, maybe we'll get there in my lifetime. I don't know. Yeah, the whole point of it, boss, is the conversation, right? Again, I have no stake. I have no team jacket. I'm not wearing a jersey for one team or the other. I've always said that Game Pass is a great value for consumers, but I think it's going to hurt the industry. He even said, and this is an industry insider in the industry that basically does this for a living as far as knowing what companies are going to be doing. And he says, his opinion, right? And I happen to agree with his opinion, that it is going to hurt the industry in the long run. Now, we're not talking like next year, right? We're talking like 7, 10, 15 years from now, where you look at Netflix. When Netflix first came out, we thought it was a laughing stock, right? We thought it was a laughing stock of they're coming out, they're gonna ship movies to you, they're gonna deliver, right? They put Blockbuster out of business, and now they're oversaturated, over 200 million subscribers. They can't keep up with it, and now they're hurting the industry itself, because now everyone, instead of going to Netflix, right, made their own Netflix, and now the whole industry is in shambles, right? Less people are going to theaters, more money in the theaters. Like you look at certain movies that are making, billions of dollars, but if you actually break it down from ticket price to what it is, it's like 1.5 times the ticket price. So for every 1.5 people going, okay, is one actual person. So there's less people going to the theaters. Less people are going to the theaters, but it's still making a lot of money, right? That can't sustain the way it is. When you say Game Pass is bad for the industry, is it mostly due to day and date releases? Yeah, and I've said that, Robert, from the very start. I agree with Take Two's take, Zelnick or Strauss Zelnick, and I also with Jim Ryan's take on Sony. Okay, I don't believe that games should be day and date. Okay, I know as a person that has Xbox, and you're like, well, that's great for us. I don't care, but you should as a consumer, right? Because companies should make their money back on their game, right? They make a game, they spend 2, 3, 5 years, 7 years working on a game, and they make all their money right up front. Just like a movie makes all its money in the first 2 weeks, basically, right? If they make their money back in the first 2 weeks, then everything else is golden for them, okay? Video games, like the first month to 3 months, they make their money, right? So in this interview with Michael, with Destin interviewing Michael, we talked about how if they just, Sony might have to cave, right? Because if Call of Duty goes on Game Pass, then PlayStation might have to put Call of Duty on their PlayStation Plus to compete. But they don't want to do that because it diminishes what they're trying to do over there. Let God of War breathe. Let Horizon Forbidden West breathe. Let Spider-Man breathe. Let them be out there for 3-6 months, make the money, and then put it out on the thing, right? So they're not going to do it for at least a year. I think that's going to come back down, and they're going to make those games within the first 6 months, I would think. I would think they would make it on PlayStation Plus for the first 6, or maybe this is how it'll work. It'll be, let's say God of War 3 comes out for 6 months, and then it'll shoot up on PC, and then 6 months after that, it'll come out on the PlayStation Plus. They have to do something to adapt, right? And that's the reason I say it's bad for the industry. I think they should 100% not put it out day and date. Why would I want to pay $10 to listen to that one guy on his cell phone who won't shut up, and I have to go ask someone who works there to speak to him? What do you mean, to go to the theater? I personally have never been in a movie theater, and I go a lot, where someone's on the phone during a theater, right? And to counter what you're saying, why would I pay $10 a month so I could sit at my house on a smaller screen with the dog barking, with my wife telling me to go do something, with my kids screaming in the background, with noises and lawn mowers and everything else going on in the background while I'm watching a movie? The same thing. So to say one guy in the theater and 1,000 other things happening, the difference is when I go to a theater and something happens, right? Now, I don't know if anyone saw Avengers Endgame in theaters, okay? There's a moment when Captain America grabs that hammer and goes, scar, and grabs that thing. And just me saying it, I got my hair standing on my arms, okay? The amount of just, you could feel the energy, okay? You could feel the energy in the theater, okay? That's what's missing when you go watch it at home. You know what you do at home when you watch a movie? Hey, babe, you watching it? Oh, yeah. Hold on. Check my email. Hold on a second. Right? When you go to a theater, unless you're a complete another tool, okay? Right? Unless you're a complete other tool in the theater checking your fucking text messages and talking on the phone because you're a douchebag. And I'm not saying you are the douchebag, but if you are that person that's doing that in the theater, then you're the outlier, not the majority. It's like an unwritten contract when you go to a theater, right? Like there's assholes that bring their baby, There's like a newborn baby. They're like, well, I want to go see a movie. I'm going to bring my baby that's crying every 5 seconds. Like, you're an asshole if you do that. Okay. There's an unwritten rule when you go to a theater that everyone sits in the theater and for 2 hours you surrender, right? Obviously, if you have an emergency message from your kid because he's burning down the house or something, then you're going to leave the theater. Okay. But for the most part, everyone's watching the movie and experiencing the movie together. When you're at home, you're doing everything but watching the movie. You're making family life very appealing, man. Yeah, that's just the way it is. Ultimately, Sony is mad because they could lose the cut of money they make on COD by selling the PlayStation Store. That's not what Sony's upset about. That's not what that's what they're saying they're upset about. They're upset that they're the leader. They're in the 70% market. Okay. Microsoft buying Blizzard, they have Diablo, Call of Duty, Overwatch, right? They become their percentage gets bigger in the industry. Okay, that 30% that's between everybody else, they get more of that chunk, and they're going completely somewhere else with the industry. And Sony's not ready for that. That's what they're trying to stop. This is why they've pivoted. This is why they've released their games on PC. This is why they're doing PlayStation Plus more. This is why they're trying to release games, and this is why they're going for live service games. They're trying to compete. They're trying to adjust, and I don't know if they've adjusted fast enough. Okay, I don't know. I think they're okay. I don't think they're going to go bye-bye, but they're definitely going to have a smaller chunk because that chunk of people that are going to be playing games is going to be everywhere else, not on console. Like, the theater went nuts. Yeah, that moment, man, it's just awesome. When people laugh or cry or excited. Right? A complete stranger next to me during the movie, I remember high-fiving him. I was like, oh, yeah, that was awesome, right? That was a moment. Real story here. At 8 months old, my parents went to the Rangers game. Couldn't find a sitter, so brought me with them. I cried so loud, they had to leave. It was Nolan Ryan's last no-hitter. Yeah, I mean, as an adult bringing my kid, we didn't go to the movies. When people say, "Hey, did you see this movie?" I went, "No, I didn't see the movie." You know why? Because as a responsible parent, I didn't want to take the risk. Even though my son didn't really cry when he was a kid, when he was a baby. Okay, he was very quiet, very, very, very tamed. Okay, but I didn't want to ruin someone else's time that spent their hard-earned money to go to a theater. And because I'm a responsible adult and human being and I have decency, I didn't bring my kid to the frickin' theater. That's just me, though. No. My newborn and his cell phone have never been kicked out of the first half of the movie. Second half gets iffy. Potentially, they allow Sony PlayStation to live and be happy with a 70-30, 80-20 relationship, or they will crush them. I don't think they're trying to crush them. I think Microsoft has said, look, you can have the console market. Have it. Have the console market. We're moving on to a different... We're adapting to life, right? You guys are the kings. You guys are the winner of the console market. Congratulations. Enjoy your console. We're moving on. Sadly, you're a dying breed. I don't think I'm a dying breed. I think that there's certain people. I missed movies from 2014, actually late 2013, because my wife, when she was pregnant, she didn't want to go sit in a theater, uncomfortable, right? So from like late 2013 to about 2018, right? I didn't see any movies in theaters. I didn't see any movies in theaters. That's why I didn't see John Wick or anything like that. People are like, "Oh, did you see that?" I'm like, "No, didn't see it. Didn't do it." Didn't go to restaurants and bring my kid, right? If we did go to a restaurant, we would go early. So it wouldn't even be dinner time yet. We would go to a restaurant that was like dead, so nobody else, and then we would ask to be sat in the corner somewhere, and then we would eat and then leave before anybody else got there. John Wick 4. We actually might go see it in theaters. I just told a friend like 3 days ago, say, hey, I can't find a sitter, so I guess I'll take him with us. I said, no, you'll bring your kid here and I'll watch him for you. A 5-year-old needs to be in a movie. Right. Like, look, my parents, when I was a kid, we got talked to before we went. Like, we're going to the theater. Right. We're going to watch this movie and you're going to sit there and you're going to like it. I'm like, okay. I mean, that's just the way it was, but older, right? Not an infant. But anyway, off topic. Destin, go check out his channel. He just broke over 100,000 subscribers. Maybe in the next millennial, I'll be there. Michael Pachter talking about his opinion and analytics and stuff about what he thinks that where Microsoft and Sony will be and where the streaming industry. If you like the content that we did today on this channel, please make sure you share, like, subscribe. If you'd like to go above and beyond that, you could be a member as $5. We do lots of different content on here. We play video games while we talk like this, candidly. We do shows like this on this channel. We also do a podcast, which is called Generation X Gaming, a weekly podcast that goes over a few of the top stories from the past week, and we rant along the way. That's usually on Thursday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern. This week, it's on Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Sarge is busy on Thursday, so we moved it over to Wednesday. So remember, tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern, because it is Tuesday right now, 8 p.m. Eastern, tomorrow on Wednesday night, we'll be doing episode 348 of our Generation X Gaming podcast. So what games do you play for members? I don't play games for members. It's just if right now we have a very small little member base, right? So right now I haven't done any kind of member stream. Really, it's if you like to support us, what we do. I've done 347 episodes of a podcast. It's 2 hours. Each week on Thursday nights. If you break that down for the membership, it's $1.25 for each episode. We're pretty consistent with that. It's a 2-hour show for $1.25. If you wanted to be a member, if that's how you want to break it down, you don't have to pay anything, right? You could just hit that like button, you subscribe, watch the watch time. I get paid ad revenue from YouTube videos and stuff like that. Once the membership goes up, I mean, if 5 people show up and I'm playing a game for 2 hours, the membership's really low right now. So if the membership goes up, then I'll do extra content for members. As of right now, we're a small channel. So, I mean, we just have over 1,000. I mean, we're just broke over, I think, 1,200 subscribers on the channel. So as we get more members, I will do Friday, Saturday, like content, like either Friday or Saturday, we'll play some games or whatnot. But as of right now, there was really no memberships. What do I typically play? I play everything. We played, we played Battlefront. We played Battlefield 2042 last night. Yesterday morning, we played Hogwarts Legacy. I was thinking about playing Valheim because it just came out on Game Pass. We played Valheim like 2 years ago when it came out on PC. Fantastic game. I've played Tunic. I play everything. I play what I want when I want. Even people that are not interested. I played Minecraft Dungeons last week on channel. What else we played? We played Division 2 usually on Wednesday nights. Not this week though, because we're doing the podcast. What else? We're going to be playing Jedi Survivor when it comes out. We'll play Suicide Squads when it comes out, whenever, this year, next year. So I'm a pretty free-spirited person when it comes to what I want to play. If people are interested, they're interested. If they're not, they're not. They move on. Craig Tone, thank you very much for that. Appreciate the membership for the Green Squad. I watch simply because you're awesome. I don't need the premium gold, only blah, blah, blah to incentivize me. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. I've been doing this for like 8 years. 8 years I've been streaming. Not successful at it. Definitely not successful at it, but I like doing what I do. I like talking, and I like having conversations with people, and that's what it's about. It's not about me being right or wrong. We look up a lot of stuff on the channel, right? If someone comes out with a bold statement, I'll be like, fact check them, right? And then the same goes with me. If I mess up, people fact check me and stuff like that. It's a good conversation. It's a good fun thing to do. You like video games. I like talking about video games. We talk about movies. We have multiple channels. We have 30 and Still Gaming, which is now a simulator channel. I've been doing a farm simulator series over there on 30 and Still Gaming. We have this channel, 30 NSG, which does uploads. We do live streams. We do podcasts. We do gameplay. And then I have my third channel, which is called Nerding with 30, which is industry type stuff, talking about entertainment stories, trailers, all that stuff. So do lots of different content. I'm one person. There's not many other people. There's no one helping me on the back end here. It's just me. I have friends that give me advice and whatnot. Creature helps us out on the back end every once in a while, and Sarge does a podcast with me. But other than that, I'm basically the one-man show. So I appreciate it very much. I'm done for this morning. If you guys like this, please make sure you hit that like button down below. I'll be back tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern, for gameplay. I'm not sure what we're playing tonight, but make sure you hit that notification so you know when we go live. You guys have a wonderful day, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.